All right, sorry about the delay. I'm Chris Lucas. This is my show, The Protestant View. I had to make sure, I had everything clear because I don't want anyone to think I'm still running for office. So, um, yeah, I don't. Yes, I gotta get rid of that. So, by the way, anyone that wants to come on my show today, I'm gonna give it an extra second before I really start talking and saying much because I started up a show earlier and I was like, oh no, there's a few things I got to take care of. A few, so I got that sorted out. Um, so this is an open mic. Anyone that wants to come on and talk about anything. Uh, Sorry, let me just type this in. Um, there we go. You can just click the StreamYard link, right? And you can come right on my show. Um, Type that too. Some people don't understand that. There we go. Boy, that is messy. There we go. Got that to work. All right. So anyone that wants to come on, feel free to come on, join the show. Um, Basically, I had to drop out of the race. I'm withdrawing. I'll make it official Monday. But the reason why I'm withdrawing is it's way. I'm a little bit over my head. I had some very good ideas to win a campaign by spending less than $500. Right, like getting the votes was no problem. Campaigning was no problem. What the problem was is that I don't understand some of the legalities of it, right? And I don't really have much help. If I had a lawyer or something that could walk me through some of the things, I could have done this, right? Um, but the problem was is that um, I guess there was a lot I was doing that had I kept doing it, I could have got myself in some big trouble, and I didn't realize it. And some very, it's things you would think is minor, right? But you can get in really big trouble if you don't cross all these T's just right and dot your I's. And I guess it's like some of that dotting the T's and crossing the I's. You need a political action committee, which I was under the impression when I'm talking to the Federal Election Commission, you don't need a political action committee. You can just do it all yourself. But then the Indiana election committee is telling me something else. So I'm really confused. I'm like, am I? Can I do this without talking to an election committee? I mean, can I do this without by going by the FEC regulations, the Federal Election Commission, or do I have to go by the IEC, the Indiana Election Commission? Who do I go by? And or do I have to go by them both? And it's and the so the only thing the only major plus I can come away with this is that if you run for office, I don't think it's all rigged by like the way everyone claims it is. First of all, I know people will argue with me and almost want to like rip my throat out for saying that. Like, how can you say something? No, it's actually not really rigged. It's mainly a bunch of people in America that are very apathetic and don't do anything. All it took was a little help from people, like a little interest. Like, could people had shown interest in me trying to run? Um, Now in Indiana, I hadn't been like that, but I still think that I should have had more interest shown towards me throughout the pandemic when I was speaking out against things. Um, And it's like all these other people that were talking about everything going on, they weren't giving you any solutions. Like at least I was like, hey, why don't we have a protest and tell Trump not to renew the emergency order? It goes away, right? Because he's got to do it every 90 days. Real simple stuff. Real simple. And it's like I couldn't like the fact is that you got an internet full of people that's like, no, and they're pulling their hair out. He's playing 3D chess, Chris. You don't know what you're talking about. And they just want to wave their fist and go crazy and like, Trump is gonna save us. And it's like, man, I'm having to deal with just nuttiness. And like had that nuttiness just settled down and been like, wow, this is actually a good idea. We could have done something. We could get freedom of speech. I still have a way of having where I got an ideal that I just need people that have any kind of care in the world to help me, who got a brain and can sit there and go, oh, like people who are actually smart and actually have a care in the world and know some laws, and we can get this done to where we can have good candidates on a ballot every single year, right? Because I have a good idea about forming a political action committee, and this political action committee will have a ton of power to elect anyone it wants. Everyone would have to agree with it, or they're not going to get elected. But I don't want to be the one who runs it. I want someone else to run it, or I can head it, but I need to have a bunch of better people under me that really know election laws and things like that. And I think it's real easy to have a platform where our voice gets heard, but we can't be like a non-critical thinking, like where it's like you got like your emotions are so tied into like someone like Trump, where you can't see reality. If you can go see reality, I can help you, right? Or like, oh, bad idea, Trump spending $6 trillion on warp speed. Bad idea, signing for the lockdown. Bad idea. If you could agree with that and go, that was a bad idea by Trump, I can help you. You have you have hope. But it just depends on how I see things, because I still gotta talk to the election commission to make sure everything's cool, that I did everything correctly with drawing and everything. Then I can progress to this next idea. But the good news is, like, there's a lot of really nice people. Like when you call the federal election committee, like, dude, they'll walk you through almost everything. It's just there was one, either a really huge thing they didn't tell me about, or maybe that Indiana is, because I'm running as a federal candidate, I'm not under these same stipulations. I'm not sure, because all I could get a hold of when I talked to the Indiana Republican Party was the guys that deal with the state elections. And the guy was like, yeah, I never helped anyone run for a federal office, but I know you got to do this or this and this. And if you're not doing this, you can get in big trouble. Well, I was like, well, I was about ready to do that. He's like, yo, you better not do that, man, or else you could get in some huge trouble. And that was one of my big ideals about having to run. I was like, well, if I can do this should be pretty easy. I should be able to run everything under $500. And so he had this thing where if you hit a $5,000 threshold, then you got to fill out for all this other paperwork and do all this extra stuff. And I don't have time for all that extra stuff. I mean, I work 60 hours a week. Sometimes my job might even have me work 70. Lately, I've been working about 50. So I've been able to, so I was like, well, if I keep working 50, I can run for office. I can do all this extra paperwork and go downtown, drive here and there. And so I'm like, well, it looks like this is going to keep up. Maybe it's meant to be, right? And I don't know. But look, I'll show you, man. I was even on the ballot. I don't know if people saw this or not, but let me see if I can get to my post I made today. I'll show you something. So let me go ahead and share this other screen. because I can show you that I was actually like even on the Republican website. Here we go. Like I said, anyone that wants to come on and just talk, I mean, this is more like just kind of like a hangout thing. But I did take a screenshot of this. And you can see this is right from, oh man, why won't it? I'm going to just go to the election here. I'll just go to the election website, which you can see it a lot better that way anyway. Let's bring the election website up here. So here's the Indiana website. And you can see www.in.gov. So that's indiana.gov. And right here we can see Christopher John Lucas, Republican, 4th District. So I was aiming to do this. I'm just, man, it's just not, to me, it's not a good idea. I just got too much stuff I got to get done, with my daily life. And if I have to go and weed through all this extra paperwork, and it's like missing one thing can potentially make me pay $1,000 fine and this and all this other stuff, it's like, nah, not doing it. Not doing it, man. And I just kind of was in the midst of doing things that I actually completed them because I missed some details. I could have got myself, potentially like a misdemeanor and things like that. So it's like, nah, I don't know all these laws that good, and it's just not worth it. But to win, it's not that hard. And you got to think about all these people that cry on YouTube. Because you got all these like big channels like Tim Pool, all these other so-called truther channels that you think are your heroes, Anomaly, all these losers, basically, in my eyes. It's like, if these guys were so much about truth and everything, why couldn't they just think of a simple, like, oh no, I got banned again? All these people that cry over getting banned, they make me angry. Because if someone runs as a candidate, I don't think you can get banned from speaking, right? And I have a better idea than just running for office to make you ban proof, where you can never get banned, right? Because I was thinking about this and I stumbled across it while I was doing all this. So I do have good things to pull from this, like creating a ban-proof channel, YouTube channels where ban-proof everything's ban-proof, and you even have to be listened to by mass media. Yes. And see what it is these truthers don't care about you, or they would have thought of this, right? They would have thought about this. But I can tell you straight up, all these truthers on YouTube that think they're truthers and cry about being banned and cry about the government, none of them care about you. And even all these people on Rumble, man, like you give all these people money on Rumble, they don't care about you. Go to all these Rumble channels, every single one of them, man, are just complete frauds. I need to I need to bring this up. So I'm gonna take and go search through Rumble, see who's on. Anyone, I mean, right now you want to talk, because the topic's totally open. We go talk about government. We go talk about a lot of things. But, all those people that were getting banned, there was a way where you didn't have to have your information banned. We could have been talking about things like this all year long in 2020 without losing a channel. But what people got to do is they need to start backing channels like mine and subscribing to channels like me, and not cry because they say one thing that hurts your feelings. Stop crying and unsubbing from me because they say one thing that challenges your reality and you just can't take it and you want to hold on to your false reality so bad, and you just gotta unsub because there's bigger things going on here. You know, like we got all these people sitting here on Rumble, and I'm just gonna see what are all these people talking about on Rumble. We're gonna just go through the biggest channels on Rumble, see what they're talking about. We got to have some live channels right now, right? See, we got this one. You know, it's got 300,061 views. I guarantee you these people probably cry a lot about, oh, we're getting banned, we can't talk. I really don't want to give this ideal away. I almost want to say it right now. And it's such a simple ideal. And it really amazes me that these so-called channels that care about the truth have never thought about it. And that's why I know I'm pretty sure they just don't even care. And they're just like basically taking your money, taking your time. They like to look like they care, but they really don't care. Because, you know, how many of them ever told you, oh man, that was a horrible idea when Trump signed that executive order on September 19th, 2019 to modernize the influenza vaccines in the United States, right? That's kind of fishy. He does that right before COVID starts. Need to figure. Oh yeah, now I know what I wanted to play. If I can find it. Should be on my feed. I found this interesting though. This guy, man, this was from play a little.
Ever felt like your dealership lot's a magnet for tire kickers? You're getting
seemed like has a relatively normal post history.
Let's see here. See, now he made this video on March 11th, 2020 while he was in China. I think this guy lives in China. His name is I don't know how you pronounce that. Lao Hai 86, LAOWHY 86. Someone I actually subscribed to when he first made this video because no one was hardly talking about this.
Predictions very recently, when I was on the road with Winston, we were doing a road trip and we made a pilgrimage to a Tiananmen Square massacre memorial. And long story short, pretty much everything that I predicted came true with a heavy heart. But I have to introduce you to a little system that I've created. Now, YouTube has been brutal with the whole demonetization thing. It's been 2 months now with absolutely no monetization. I'm of two minds on that. I've said this before. The fact that they're demonetizing videos around it, morally, I'm okay with it because it's kind of like no one should be profiting off of like tragedy. At the same time, it also de-incentivizes people like that want to talk about it. Like I've watched a lot of YouTubers that I follow, not China-based YouTubers or anything, but YouTubers that I follow that really want to talk about it, but they're just completely self-censoring or just avoid it completely. And I think that's a huge disservice to people that want to express their opinion or maybe even give advice on the whole matter. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone that's like actually supporting me and Winston at this time. It's the only way we can actually do it, and we'll continue to do it with little breaks here and there if things slow down. Now, I'm actually going to do an experiment, though. My experiment today is to create code words. Notice I haven't said any of those bad words yet. I've made a key here, and throughout the video, I'll be using these words. So get these in your brain right now. Try to memorize these and understand what I'm trying to say, just so it doesn't trigger that whole YouTube algorithm. I think there's a 99% chance it doesn't even matter and I'll totally get demonetized, but this is an interesting thought experiment. So when we talk about the bad thing, the Voldemort of current situations, I'm going to be calling it the Modelo bug. I thought that was kind of appropriate. It's a little play on words there. Also, if I'm talking about that certain organization that we often criticize, I'm going to be calling it the communal fiesta of the Middle Kingdom, just to keep in line with that whole Medelo what what I'm trying to say. But first, I'm going to get into a piece of anecdotal evidence. Just pause that here. Now, this, sorry, I should have given you a little more time in between the pictures. So with this is China Xinhua News. Now, my predictions were more in line with the whole, like the Western world or the rest of the world is going to fall in line with Chinese propaganda. So when we look at this is Chinese state media. This is not a surprise to me, but I found this poll like delicious and hilarious, and just it tickled my fancy, but also made me really sad. So this one says, in China's fight against the what was it called again? Oh, the Medelo bug outbreak. Which part impresses you most? Hospital built in days, which was the clear winner of this poll. Solidarity amongst Chinese. Use of modern technology, or spirit of self-sacrifice. That seems like all completely positive scenarios surrounding this. And I found this poll the most self-serving thing I've ever seen, but it doesn't surprise me at all, like in the slightest, with state media like this. But the reason I brought this up was because state media obviously is going to first affect Chinese people in China. And my anecdotal evidence today was something that shocked me a little bit to the core. Not as much as the Western media kind of playing into the communal fiesta's hands, but more in line with that. I can't believe that Chinese people in China bought into this, especially amongst the lost generation, this quickly and so fervently. There was a bit of critique in the beginning about how the Medelo bug was being dealt with in China. And there was even like, you would even see some whistleblower type people on Chinese media talking about how bad it actually is and how the cover up really screwed everything over and how they're suffering and how they're running out of food and all this kind of stuff. But now that generation seems to be well in line with the communal fiesta's kind of word or the way they're portraying things. And my father-in-law this morning, I found this fascinating, said that it is confirmed that the Medelo bug not only originated in the US, but there were 5 different types of this Medelo bug in the US. And then one of them passed on to affect Chinese people in China. And he said that was demonstratively proven. Scientists have, qualified scientists have signed off on this idea. And my original prediction, or I should say my first video surrounding the Medelo bug kind of covered that, about how it was already America's fault. And it's now actually like the fiesta's rhetoric at this point, which I found fascinating. Head over to the next slide here. So then we had the what. We knew from the beginning, I think Winston and I think you'd agree with me, we were super like confused and skeptical because we didn't have any inkling that the what was in the pockets of the fiesta at all. Yeah, you can hear him in the background. We really didn't have an inkling of that. It didn't make any sense as a global organization, right? So when we saw like evidence of this coming out, not from other people, but from what they were tweeting and what the actual official messages were to the rest of the world, we were shocked because here we are, we have this like, global organization where many countries equally participate. And it seemed completely biased towards the communal fiesta. And it was shocking because we know how poorly the communal fiestas managed other things in the past, like the previous type of Medelo virus. I said virus. Oh. Computer virus. I'm talking about computer virus. The Medelo bug. The previous Medelo bug was an absolute shit show, and this one was as well. So we were kind of shocked to see the what actually screwing up so badly on this. But even now, the tweets keep coming out continuously praising Shinny the Pooh, the communal fiesta, all this kind of stuff. And it's funny because they're getting like called out left and right, not only by us, but like by people all over the world. Even like news outlets that I don't even like or agree with are kind of ganging up on this idea that there's something really fishy going on here. But they continue with this. So it's clear that if we're playing chess here, like 4D chess or something, the communal fiesta is absolutely on top of whatever crap is being thrown at them or criticism is being thrown at them. The what doesn't actually care. It's more important to be in line with, the fiesta's rhetoric. And that kind of shocks me to the core. Head over to the next one. So again, that's a global thing, right? So again, there's some more, how to say, like,
anyone join us, more new viewers. Anyone can click that link and come on and talk about anything. I mean, I just kind of wanted to make the title of the video just so people know why I withdrew. There's just I couldn't understand some of the legalities basically, and I didn't want to get myself in trouble because I dodged some bullets that kept me up about. I would like one day I only got 2 hours of sleep. I didn't even, and it's a day I normally hang out with my kids for a few hours since it's my day off. Instead, I got only 2 hours of sleep that day, trying to comb over everything to make sure I was not violating a law, right? And that still didn't give me enough confidence to feel like I had done everything correctly, right? And I even talked to the FEC. I talked to a Republican committee person, and to be honest, it scared me that I might have done something like really bad, from when I talked to him, or like I was on the cusp of doing something really bad to get myself in a lot of trouble. So that's kind of why I'm like, I took down a lot of stuff, man. So, and erased my website and all that. So just not running. But anyone that wants to talk about anything else politically, even about the Bible, I'm open to anything.
Ass kissing here. They always use flags, which I thought was really interesting. So instead of saying China, they always use the flag, and they do that with all countries. And they do it for a lot of obscure countries that most people wouldn't even know. And I wonder if that's to like avoid something. I'm not sure. But these flag emojis, if you go and like count how many there are, they're usually surrounding how China has dealt with the Modelo bug like the best out of any place in the entire world. So I just wanted to point that out. And that's, it's continued. That was on March 8th, so that's still happening.
I just want to play a little bit of this.
Next up, we also have this, and this is, again, even when they're trying to talk about a place like South Korea, who, in my opinion, is up there, maybe top 3 countries that have dealt with the Modelo bug properly without like sacrificing human rights, right? That have actually dealt with that and, educated their citizens very quickly, much better than the US is doing, in my honest opinion. Really dealing with it properly without welding people in their homes. They continuously use I can say China. I'm tripping up here. Yeah. They continuously use China as the prime example of how it was dealt with when it's very clear that that's not the case, right? And we'll just continue. I want to talk about something really serious. We don't need more of this, man. I should have made a code word for this dude's name. Teddy bear. Yeah. Okay, so this was my worry, is that, yes, we already confirmed that the communal fiesta screwed up completely. They prosecuted and persecuted and disappeared people that were trying to make light of the situation. And that's what caused this to leave the borders of the Middle Kingdom, right? That's what caused this to go to all these other places. Yet it's kind of falling on deaf ears. Although the dialogue is still there, my prediction was that the general public that hasn't been up to date about this entire thing, without any chip on their shoulder or without any like preconceived notion of how China dealt with this, what happened was there was a massive, massive shift in the psyche or general zeitgeist. So when I checked my Twitter, or my Instagram particularly, or my YouTube comments, a huge chunk, and I would say probably at least 40% of people, so maybe before it was like this outlier Wu Mao type, like 1%, 2% of haters, like 40% of people, including Westerners who follow me, started kind of towing this, right? So you see this, it says hospital built in days, takes months or years just to repair roads here, but we've got the Chinese building mega hospitals in 10 days. And that was to one of my posts from someone that obviously follows me. And that was something they latched onto when I posted that poll, which I found very interesting, that was what they were impressed with after the evidence came out that those mega hospitals were completely ill prepared to deal with anything. If they do have enough hospital beds, then why does the communal fiesta need to build these emergency facilities? When after they did that, a lot of them suffered immediate damage, were leaking, people were getting leaked on, people didn't have anywhere to urinate or defecate. Basically just breeding grounds for the Modelo bug. And this is what people are nowadays being impressed with after empirical evidence has come out that really didn't work as a containment method. And it was kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a very, very dire situation. Continue. That's a long one.
Yeah, it is the longest one so far.
So here we have this guy, and the reason I'm not censoring these people's names is because this is on a public forum. So they posted comments. I would never post someone's direct messages. I hate when people don't you find that repugnant when people use like DMs inside of videos?
Yeah, I'll never do that.
It's ridiculous. But these are public, right? So this guy says, still, no matter what you think about the I almost say, yeah. Still, no matter what you think about the communal fiesta of the Middle Kingdom, they were doing a great job now controlling the population, hence the bug. I know you don't like the communal fiesta of the Middle Kingdom, but even Xi Tele, which is in Chinese, probably did some good things in Germany. Now, that's probably not something you can get away with saying nowadays anyway, but likening two positives when both are negatives, I found abhorrent. But this was a really common type of rhetoric. And this is not someone that's like some brainwashed hater or nationalist in China. This is somebody that seemed like has a relatively normal post history, a relatively normal, well-adjusted person. And this is the kind of thing is if you're not paying attention from day one, all the way up until now, the whole timeline of the situation, all the screw ups and the continual screw ups, you're going to be in this position where you might have a favorable view, almost a favorable view of how the communal fiesta actually dealt with the Modelo bug, when in fact it was abhorrent, and that's why we have it in our borders nowadays, right? Continue. Giving this guy a lot of face too. Okay, so this was something I found very interesting. And it was, I'm not going to call it evidence. I'm not going to be one of those guys that I found the best evidence of this. I'm going to prove my point. But I found this very interesting.
I think I want to play this.
You're sending out rewards and payouts, but it's a struggle
I
to do
skipped
it
the
right.
part I really
Multiple
wanted to
vendors,
play.
multiple countries.
And romanticize authoritarianism. And we will look at the person that started the fire, the Chinese government that created.
Okay, I think this is.
You can't take a tragedy and make people believe that that tragedy is, number one, not your fault, and number two, you should be patted on the back and celebrated for your stern leadership. And my fear is that when this does blow over, and when the CCP writes their books, their history books, they're also going to change other people's minds in other countries and romanticize authoritarianism. And we will look at the person that started the fire, the Chinese government that created this, and we will look at a lot of the world congratulating them on their containment methods. And if that shit spreads, it is a slap in the face if you see people around the world in freedom-loving countries congratulating authoritarian dictatorships in their leadership style and actually craving that sort of leadership style because of soft power and propaganda. That's a slap in the face of the Chinese people that left and tried to fight for their freedom in China.
Yeah, that's actually the part I want to play. Sorry, I played so much of this. I thought that was like a really good point, was that he was saying that, you know, we're going to look back on this, and then it's like, even though they did a horrible job of containing it, right, it didn't work. All that authoritarian stuff they did by what was it, where they took those blow torches and tried to weld people into their homes and things like that. And then he had like all the freedom loving world saying, you know, I remember early on when a lot of the world was congratulating China on trying to deal with it in that manner. And that made it sound like, oh, well, what we're doing, like we need to do a similar thing in America, and let's have a lockdown here. But, you know, I don't know. I was really hoping someone would join because I didn't have a lot to. Well, I mean, I got a lot to say, but I just don't even know where to start at. I miss having my website, because that website I was making was going to be really. I really thought there was going to be a lot of good stuff about that website. Because I was going to have a lot of things like this on there. This is going to remind people, hey, you know, this whole COVID thing, most of our government issues I was just going to bring up about the Vatican a lot. My whole site, in fact, it really focused on the Vatican and coronavirus and our borders, because it was like, hey, you want to stop this? What? Well, I guess it's more like we have a Catholic-run America. We see what happens when Catholics run other countries like Germany during World War II, because that was Hitler was a Catholic, and then he's implementing what the Vatican wants. And we see how that worked out. And then we see the Ustasha during World War II. Oh, yeah, Ustasha genocide. Yeah, genocide, too brutal for the Nazis.
IT professionals, what if you could earn upwards of $250,000 a year while working less than 1 hour a day from any...
Convert a third, deport a third, and murder a third. This was the policy of the Ustasha in dealing with the Serbs within their borders.
Oh, I want people to keep in mind, too, as I play this, that right now America's ran by mostly Catholics, right? That's who took your Bible out of school. That's who helped start the Civil War in America. When we had the American Civil War, they sided with the South, encouraged the South to secede, and they're the ones that would have riots up in the North and stomp black orphans to death. Because, that's what the draft riots were. They were Irishmen that were Irish Roman Catholics. And they go have these riots. And then, during these riots, they'd go destroy a black orphanage or something and stomp the orphans to death. And then you see them taking over Yugoslavia. And here it is. It's like, and these were Catholic clerics that wound up running the Ustasha. And then they had genocide with a lot of gypsies, Jews, but mainly a lot of Orthodox, if I understand correctly. So they tell these Orthodox, hey, they'd have these people basically have a forced Catholic conversion. As soon as some of them converted, they kill them.
Ustasha was the name given to the fascist movement that aimed to create an independent Croatia in Yugoslavia. When the Axis powers of Nazi Germany and fascist Italy invaded the region, the Ustasha set about ridding the area of Jews, Serbs, and Roma in a bid to build a pure Croat state. The levels of violence employed by the Ustasha would be so extreme that it even shocked their Nazi and Italian allies. It is estimated that anywhere between 200,000 and 500,000 people were murdered in the most brutal of ways, with horrors including setting up concentration and death camps that only housed children, and much of the killing done with hand tools. In today's video, we will look at the reasons behind such a barbaric group forming, and the crimes they committed, and the consequences for the region. It's helpful to start with the formation of Yugoslavia. The Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes was formed in 1918 following the First World War. Old empires were split up and the map of Europe was redrawn. The Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes was created with these nationalities forming a new state from land originally controlled from the defeated Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires. No regard was given to just how these varied cultures were going to work together in the new state. There were many different religions, such as Islam, Orthodox Christianity, and Catholicism, and many more nationalities. Each of these nationalities were all pushing for self-determination, but this was largely ignored. Serbs would play a leading role in the newly formed state, as they were both the largest of the ethnic groups and had fought on the side of the victorious Allied powers, whereas the conscripted Slavs and Croats fought for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In 1929, the Serb king Alexander renamed the country the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. He established a dictatorship, abolished the constitution, and dissolved parliament. This resulted in many of the politicians leaving the country in exile. Among them was Ante Pavlovich, the man who would go on to create the Ustasha movement. Ustasha, roughly translated,
Now, this guy was rewarded by the Pope for everything he did.
means uprising. The goal was to create an independent Croatia. It was pro-Catholicism and tolerant to the Bosnian Muslims in the region, who they saw as Croats who had converted to Islam under Ottoman rule. It was anti-Serb, anti-Orthodox Christian, with desires to annex Serbian territory. Pavelić was clear that the methods to establish an independent Croatia would be through extreme violence. In one speech he proclaimed, "The knife, revolver, machine gun and time bomb. These are the idols. These are the bells that will announce the dawning and the resurrection of the independent state of Croatia." In 1934, Alexander was assassinated in France. The murder was carried out by the Internal Macedonian Revolutionary Organization, working alongside the Ustasha, and his son and heir, Peter II, was too young. The kingdom was ruled by war of a regency. Nazi expansion in the region in the 30s encouraged the Kingdom of Yugoslavia to sign the Tripartite Pact on the 25th of March 1941, in a bid to avoid annexation. Shortly after, a British-backed coup removed the regency and placed the now 17-year-old Peter II on the throne. This action only encouraged Nazi Germany to invade Yugoslavia, which fell to their control in a matter of weeks. It was often the case in newly conquered Nazi territories that puppet governments would be installed. Such was the case with Yugoslavia. The country was divided up, with Italy claiming the coast and Montenegro, land in the north claimed by Hungary, and in the east claimed by Bulgaria. The Ustasha were not the first pick for a puppet state, though they were enthusiastic in proving their loyalty to the Axis powers. Though the Axis powers were largely distrustful that the Ustasha would deliver what was required of them. The independent state of Croatia was formed with the Ustasha put in power by their Nazi and Italian patrons. In a bid to elevate their status as the new rulers, the Ustasha attempted to frame their ancestry as Germanic and Gothic, though this was based on fantasy and not grounded in fact. Nazi focus was not on the Balkans, but rather the Soviet Union. At this point in the war, Operation Barbarossa was in full swing. So as long as the Balkans were under control, much could be tolerated by the Axis powers. For Pavelić, the cost of annexed land and the Axis supervision was well worth Croatian independence and domination over those seen as inferior. On the 22nd of July 1941, the Ustasha government issued their racial policies, decreeing those who would be targeted in a series of deportation, forced conversions, and massacres. The key targets were the Serbs, Jews, and Roma peoples living within the new Croatian state. The massacres of the Serbs by the Ustasha forces started as early as 1941 in a small village called Gudović. Around 200 Serbs were killed by firing squad by the Ustasha militia, responsible for much of the killings to come. It was not simply enough for the Ustasha to murder Serbs. Widespread reports detailed the level of mutilation employed. Very often, eyes would be gouged out, ears and noses removed, and items inserted into sexual organs.
Hey guys, this is Charlie with Badass Beard Care, and today I'm here to talk to you all about our free sample offer.
And bodies would be left for wild pigs to eat or to rot away. A series of concentration camps were established, notably at Jasenovac. Nazi influence resulted in a series of laws stripping Jews and Roma of rights and property. However, in the case of Jews, they would be able to avoid persecution if they converted and gave up their religion. The Ustasha's main target would always be the Serbs. A proclamation was issued that the policy of the Ustasha was to kill a third of Serbs, deport a third, and forcefully convert a third to Catholicism. Serbs formed the majority of prisoners in Jasenovac, mainly those who refused to convert to Catholicism. Food would be sparse. either a starch or turnip soup, supplemented with whatever the prisoners would be able to scavenge. This would include leaves, grass, or whatever undigested food could be found in human waste. Prisoners would be made to work in the fields for agriculture, in the brickworks, or in metalworking, often making weapons for the Ustasha. Those who did not perish as a result of the horrendous conditions and disease would be systematically murdered. Whilst attempts to gas prisoners were made with gas fans similar to those used by the Nazis, there were no gas chambers at Jasenovac. Those who were murdered were done so manually. Often this was done with a blow to the head, and the bodies then dumped in the nearby rivers, so that the corpses would drift up and end in Serbian territory.
You gotta think, all this Catholic Church, because remember, they're forcing them to become Catholics. So if they're forcing them to become Catholics, obviously the Catholics are running it, right? And then people want to be like, oh, I'm so scared of the Jews. Why? Why are you? Why? Because you know what's coming across the border? It ain't Jews coming across our southern border. It's a bunch of Catholics. And why is that? Because the Catholic Church tells these immigrants who are all mostly Catholics, vote for you want to vote for the Democrat Party because they best represent Catholic social teaching. Go on their websites; they'll tell you that, right? And so obviously, we're having these Catholics are actually Democrat voters coming in, right? And it doesn't make much sense when we have Sean Hannity, a Roman Catholic, Ann Coulter, a Roman Catholic, Laura Ingraham, Roman Catholic, Bill O'Reilly, Roman Catholic, all these Catholics, and they're the conservative voices we must listen to, right? And they're going to say, oh, I know this guy sounds like a rhino, but we say to vote for him and convinces America to go vote for him. And then they're like, when America's getting bad. And it's like, why is America getting bad? Because a lot of Americans are idiots, and I was listening to this Christian program, and it's like, and I can really see why America's going to crap, I mean, like, this one show was a good example of most of Christianity. I can't say one bad word about Trump because everyone thinks Trump great, and just dumb, can't put two and two together. This is where your country's falling apart. This is, in my opinion, Christianity, falling apart. There was like this Orthodox guy. He's got this channel. I actually like his channel. Find it real quick and give it a suggestion. He actually grew a lot. He only had about 50 subscribers the other day. And here he is. This is his channel right here.
It's just funny, like
But this guy, I'm not. He only had about 50 subscribers the other day. Now he's got about 266. But he's a Asian Orthodox guy, right? And I actually learn a lot from him, right? And the thing is, like sometimes you'll hear Orthodox and Catholics bash Protestants, right? And so I'm like, well, most people are not Protestant, not in America, because he also had some foreign Orthodox people on there. And I was like saying, hey, most Protestants are not really Protestant in America. They like to lick the Pope's boots. They like to just get down on their knees and kiss the Pope's feet. And they love the Catholic Church. They love everything the Catholic Church is doing to them in America. It's either that or they're real stupid, right? So, and maybe it's kind of both, it's like when I start seeing doctrines, like, I don't, to be honest, I know some people are not going to like me for saying this, but it's that whole, like, I see some bad fruits from this free grace doctrine, to be honest. And this is why I started to reject once saved, always saved. When I see a lot of people that push that, and it's like they're all under a spell and they can't wake up. They just can't. Most of them just absolutely cannot wake up, and they just go along with this whole thing that's going on. But see, when I talk to other people, it's really weird. The people that don't believe in once saved, always saved. Now, this is just some new revelation I made. But like when I say things like, and I start pointing out things like, look at Trump, the things Trump's doing, and he's Roman Catholic, and he's nominating all these Roman Catholics. For some reason, these people can comprehend what I'm saying. But these other people, they can't comprehend it. And what does a free grace teach, right? Now, maybe you could say, Chris, you're wrong about this, but what does free grace teach? Once you believe, you're saved, and no matter what you do, even if you forget about God, whatever, you're still saved, even if you live, because it's like, because once you're a son, you're a God, you're always a son, right? And a son of God, and God, will, you're always a son. Just like if your son was like the worst person in the world, just decide, he's going to hate you and be like, I hate my dad, and do everything he can to hate his dad and make his dad ashamed of him. Still, they say that they go, God's like that, and he's still going to call you his son, and you're always going to be his son. And the problem, the problem I have with that is that whole group becomes very ecumenical. That's another thing I'm starting to see is the ecumenicalism. And like, they don't seem like they have much of a problem holding hands with the Pope. So if they don't have much problems holding hands with the Pope, then they can embrace it and think, oh, there's nothing wrong with us all getting together and having this big love fest. And I start just seeing all these things go hand in hand. I'm going to go ahead and drop this guy's link in case anyone wants to ever subscribe to his channel. But I learned a lot from, hey, Jill, reprove and rebuke. I think, or maybe I got that wrong. Sorry. Oh, Jesus is Lord. So Jesus is Lord. That's why people call him Jill. Okay, got it. So rebuke and reprove. And hey, Rudy, appreciate you showing up too, man. You guys, if you want to come on, I'm just kind of talking, man. No one was talking, so I just started playing videos about the Eustache and stuff. But anyway, the one thing I don't think some of these Orthodox realize that are in other countries is how America's really run. And it's ran by really dumb, like really ecumenical Protestants and mostly Catholics. And I think like that whole, and I'm starting to wonder if the whole free grace doctrine is responsible for a ton of ecumenism. And because of that, I think they can hold hands with the Pope easier, and they can just it's like a lot of things that you feel like you need to separate yourself from, and well, it's like, well, they believe, so if they're a believer, they're a brother because they believed once, I believed once, this person believed once, we can all hold hands, and we're all part of the same church and the same body, because we all believed one single time. And it doesn't matter what else we do. We all believe, And so I just start to wonder if that's kind of a problem. It's something I'm still kind of mulling over and thinking about. But it's definitely something. And I even wonder if that whole once saved, always saved. I don't know if people are really going to get upset with me on this one. But I wonder if that's even part of it too, because I still don't understand, what would separate anyone who believes in once saved, always saved from a free gracer. Like, I don't know. Is there any difference? And if there's not, it's because to me, I just see this whole thing where it's because there's like a importance in abiding in Christ, and you have to abide in truth. And if there's an importance in abiding in Christ, then you have to figure out what truth is. So you're under constant, you feel like there's a constant demand, like, okay, I really want to make sure I abide in Christ, even if it's out of love, whatever. It's like, I'm not saying you abide in him out of fear, but out of love, and it's like, okay, how do I know him better? well, you got to know what the truth is. You got to be willing to accept the truth and whatever scripture teaches. Like if it plainly says something, you need to do it instead of like, well, I'm not going to accept what these words are saying on this page in front of me. And I think there's a lot of people that just kind of don't. And I think that like having such a doctrine and watching them work this doctrine, it reminds me of how they work Daniel. Like, you know, I read the book of Daniel. I think it's a very easy book to understand for the most part. You know, maybe the last few pieces of 11, last few pieces of 12, maybe you might struggle a bit with that. But I think Daniel's a fairly simple book to read. And I've watched these people just like add so much to it. And I think some of these other chapters that they add so much to just are more simple, and they make them so complicated to fit their doctrine. I guess Rebuke and Reproves on 2 channels came over here to stop by. That's cool though, man. I see your name over here too. Maybe you're just hopping back and forth, which is fine. I don't care. I don't even care if everyone listening to me jumps over there. Maybe that's what I might do in a little bit. Because he has, you know, that's what he does. He lets people join. As you can see up here, if someone wants to join, like my StreamYard link should be right at the top of YouTube. On Rumble, it's probably in the comment section, or it might still be in the chat section. And you people are more than welcome to join. But I'm going to go to part of his channel because I want to show something. Oops, didn't mean to bring up a brand new stream. But the most interesting, wow, he did some long streams yesterday, but it's still pretty interesting. This one that's like 11 hours long, almost 12 hours long almost. I think this is a pretty thorough exposure of this free grace, especially when he starts playing all these people. But I'll give you a language warning, because right here, like this guy right here is the only guy I think that's not free grace. And he doesn't believe in once saved, always saved JP, but all the rest believe in free grace, right? Basically. And then you have this guy dropping F-bombs, this guy named Dude, who seems to be the star of this guy's show, Praise I Am, who just lets his channel get out of control. And it's like, I mean, I was really surprised when I first started hearing some of this stuff on a show that anyone calls this a Christian show. And if someone listens and says something about me saying this, dude, it is what it is. You got to reel in this behavior, because why is this guy at times cussing out this guy, going F you and all this stuff, and calling him names, and then he's like, and then he believes like, you know, well, I'm, you know, once saved, always saved, and I'm like he almost seems like he's like the ambassador of this doctrine or something, you know. And then, but you know, and this guy, he believes in free grace also. Really nice. I always think his behavior is fine. Charles of Layman Seminary. But you know, they're arguing with each other about who's more free grace or who's right about free grace, and it just like seems like it just gets out of control on this channel a lot. And I'm just like, I never heard of free grace before, and I never really talked to too many people in my life before I started watching all these Christian show, you know, so-called Christian shows. About 2 years ago, I stumbled across some of these channels. Never heard about this doctrine. I had this, you know, my sister was dying of cancer. My sister-in-law, you know, was dying of cancer. And I was like, you know what? I never even heard of that doctrine either. But I was like, I need to be open-minded because someone's about ready to die. And what if I got something wrong? So I'm going to just, you know, listen to other people, make sure I don't have anything wrong, because I want to be able to, you know, preach to someone correctly, you know, in case, you know, there's like a better way of preaching or a simpler way of preaching, you know, to salvation of the soul or something, right? So I started listening to these people, you know, being humble. And then, but as I'm listening to him, I'm like, man, this doesn't even seem Christian to me. Like, I mean, I don't like calling this Christian because I don't want to be judged. And when I'm scared to almost call myself Christian because I don't know if I'm always the best person, right? The best example. So I'm just like, I'm trying to be real careful when I do a show and everything. It's like how I present myself. And for people just to be able, I'm going to go on a show and talk to the public, and you can't control yourself, you can't stop dropping F-bombs, while you're on a show for a couple of hours. Like, you don't have no self-control. It's like I tend to wonder, what you're really teaching. And then some of these people, when I try to explain parts of the Bible and how they handle, prophecy, Daniel 9, Daniel 8, and it's like, and they're jumping everywhere and they're doing the same with their own doctrine, and they won't just interpret the text plainly. I start to wonder, seriously about, like, if that's even Christian. This guy, I'm not straight up called it demonic. And when he's explaining it to it, he does come up with like a lot of good points. So I would say, anyone that's interested in his channel, go check it out. If you want to watch his current show, because I might quit my show pretty soon. I might just play a little bit more, and I might just go join his channel since he's doing a show. I thought he might be going to church early tomorrow because he did like almost 15 hours of streaming. But this would be his current show he's on right now. So maybe later, I'm going to probably later on go over there. I'm going to drop this over on my Rumble channel. See if people want to go over there. Might just see if people want to go over there. There we go. I got to pause that. Sorry about that. So a few people on Rumble even want to go over here. Like I'm because I think I'm like done. I've talked about the Eustache. I guess I'll finish playing a little bit of this.
Sometimes contests were held as to which god.
By the way, if someone wants to come on, like there's something they want to share with me or something, you're free to come on. But if no one comes on in the next few minutes and says anything, I'm gonna probably just finish playing the rest of this, and I might close out the stream and just go over there and chill out and see what they're talking about. And maybe if it's not that interesting, I'll just start my own stream again. Or if they start to talk about something interesting, I get an idea, I'll start my own stream again.
Would be able to kill the most prisoners. One winner of such a contest was Peter Bratziker, who was...
Now here's the thing, ran by the Catholic Church, and they're having a contest to see who kills the most prisoners. And here's the Pope. Hey, Ante Pavlik, that was a great way to run your country, run your army, run these camps. Here's a reward for you, right? Here's an award for you. And it's like Catholic Church just approving of this. And now we got them all running America. That's a good thing, isn't it, guys? And people are like, oh, I'm scared of the Jews. I don't know why. Let's find all the documentaries where the Jews are doing this. The past 100 years of people. Yeah, I know people are going to be like, well, let's go look at Israel. But guess who set up Israel, right? The Vatican helped set up Israel. Why? To take the heat off of them. And then they take and they, because guess what? Who runs our networks? Oh, it's all these Catholics on there. Huh. And then they start up, if those who bless Israel, what is it like? If you bless Israel, God blesses you, something like that. I can't remember that whole Bible verse right off the top of my head. I'm spacing it for right now. But they got that whole Bible verse, right? So now all you got to do is help create this entity. And now you can say, oh, and you can start creating all this propaganda like the Protocols of Zion, which the Catholic Church wrote, right? And you can tell just by reading it. Watch the main video on my YouTube page. And if anyone can't find it, it's called, let me think of the name of it. I have to go to my channel real quick, just for people who Oops. Let me get this. No, well, I know it's the main page on my. Well, I guess that video doesn't pop up right off the bat. I think it's like called The Protocols of Zion and Dispensationalism or something like that, or Dispensationalism and the Protocols of Zion. That's the name of the video. But anyway, I do go into it and I show you how in the Protocols of Zion, you can tell it was by Catholic authorship, right? And and it's basically supposed to be these so-called evil Jews that are taking over the world, and here's their plan, and it's all written down in the Protocols of Zion. And look, everything on the list, it's happening in the world. And so I think the reason why the Vatican helped create Israel was to make that look more real. And then, in Daniel 9, there's supposed to be a future temple, and Israel is supposed to be a future established state again. And it's going to have a third temple, and the Antichrist is going to make a 7-year treaty with the Jews. And then in the middle of the treaty, he's going to cut it in half and make them stop offering sacrifices and offerings, right? And that doesn't make sense to me. Why is the Antichrist going to make you stop sacrificing? That doesn't make sense, because it's already like saying you don't accept Jesus. Why doesn't the Antichrist keep letting them reject Jesus, right? Hey guys, I'm going to put a stop to that. That doesn't make sense. That's why 2 and 2. That's got to be about Jesus. Jesus had about a 3.5-year ministry. He ends sacrifices and offerings. With his death on the cross, pretty simple. But people want to turn that around, make it about an Antichrist. And why was that done? It was the Vatican that popularized old church teachings that were wrong, that were basically created by Romans. Anyway, like the Roman Church popularized, had this messed up teachings about a future third temple, right? But now today, the Jesuits, reinvigorated those teachings that most people quit believing in the 1600s, and they started up again. And most of the Protestants rejected it and said, no, that's about Jesus. And you can read that in the Geneva Bible. We go down to the footnotes of the 1599 Geneva Bible, and you can see that they even believed Jesus was the one who ended sacrifice and offering in Daniel 9:27. But the Jesuits popularized this teaching, and finally it started to build up steam in the 1800s, got enough people to start teaching it and believing it. And now you got almost everybody today teaching that Daniel 9:27 is about an Antichrist. And no, the Catholic Church can't be, the papacy can't be the Antichrist. Even though, it kind of makes a lot of sense to think, you got a man calling himself Holy Father and all this other stuff. And then you got him doing things like this. And I kind of think that's the great delusion. That's one of the biggest delusions we got going on, is that no one in America, seems to notice. All these churches, none of them are talking about this. Like, you would think they'd be a little concerned about a church that did this less than 100 years ago. Well, how many years ago is that? About 80 years ago? And it was only about 40 or 50 years ago that they did the baby stealing scandal, where they stole 300,000 babies from non-Catholic families in Spain. And then it's like, finally they apologize. They stopped doing it in like 1970 something.
Was reported to have personally killed between 1,100 and 1,300 people, and the weapon used by Bratziker and many of the guards was a Serb cutter. This was an agriculture knife attached to a leather band worn on the hand. This would enable the guards to slit the throats or viciously stab the back of the head with great speed, and with only minimum risk of injury to the wielder. Bodies that were not thrown into the river would be buried in mass graves, dug by a select group of prisoners, many of these gravediggers would also be forced to take part in the killings. One of the darkest and most distressing of concentration camps was at Sisek, which had a separate camp for children. Thousands of children, often alone, though occasionally with their mothers, would be interned in the direst of conditions. The camp held more than 6,000 Serbian, Jewish, and Roma children, aged between 3 and 16, and they were kept in old stables. Dysentery combined with a diet of gruel resulted in an estimated 1,500 children dead. Murders were routinely carried out by the guards, often by taking a child and smashing them against a wall. One survivor of the camp was Bozo Judas. He was able to survive only as he was adopted by a local couple looking for a girl. Due to the poor conditions, Judas scavenged a dress that he would wear, and as all children were in a poor state, it was often not possible to tell the girls apart from the boys. According to Judas, the children were dirty, soiled, and full of threadworms. When my future adoptive father came to the camp looking for a girl, I was near the entrance. Somehow, children sensed that the person who had come had good intentions. I held him by the legs and refused to release him. As I was in a dress, he thought I was a girl and he took me in. His new family soon realized he was not a girl, but could not bring themselves to return him to the awful conditions of the camp. Unfortunately, Judas's younger sister remained in the camp and was never seen again. All the while, there were two major forms of opposition to the Ustasha, the Chechniks and the partisans. The Chechniks were the remnants of the royalist armed forces who attempted to fight and protect as many as they could in the name of Serbian nationalism. And the partisans were communist-backed guerrillas who gained massive support from the population and fought against the Axis and Ustasha occupying forces, largely regarded as the most successful of the anti-Axis partisan groups. At times, the Ustasha and Chechniks would collaborate against the partisans, the Chechniks seeing the communists as a bigger threat than the genocide raging around them. We will not go into too much detail on the resistance movements, as they deserve videos on their own, but I would strongly recommend you to take the time to look into these groups and the competing aims of each. What is important to note is that the barbarity of the Ustasha was able to galvanize support of the partisans against the fascists. In a report to Heinrich Himmler, it was stated, "Increased activity of the partisans is chiefly due to the atrocities carried out by Ustasha units in Croatia against the Orthodox population. The Ustasha committed their deeds in a bestial manner, not only against males of conscript age, but especially against helpless old people, women and children. The number of the Orthodox that the Croats have massacred and sadistically tortured to death is about 300,000. Following the surrender of fascist Italy, and as the areas under German control shrank, the partisans were able to make territorial gains. The Ustasha fought to retreat to Austria, attempting to escape partisan and Soviet capture. On the 21st of April 1945, with the partisans fast approaching, the Ustasha murdered the remaining prisoners that were still at Jasenovac. On the 22nd of April, around 600 inmates attempted a revolt, but of those, only 90 managed to escape, and all the rest were murdered. On the day of the revolt, the Ustasha killed the 400 remaining prisoners who chose not to try to escape. The buildings, guardhouses, and torture rooms were all put to the flame, leaving only ruins and the remains of countless victims. It is estimated that around 40,000 Ustasha captives were rounded up and gunned down by the partisans. Pavelić instead would make his way to Rome, and with help of the Vatican, was able to hide for a number of years in some of their properties. In 1948, he fled to Argentina along with around 30,000 of the Ustasha members under the protection of Juan Perón. In 1957, an attempted assassination left Pavelić with crippling wounds. Following the fall of Perón, Pavelić fled to Spain, where he would die a slow death of his wounds in December of 1959, never facing justice for his litany of crimes. Even to this day, there are those who seek to deny the crimes of the Ustasha, Phrases and iconography are still chanted and displayed, with some attempting to deny the genocide altogether. Some believe that the successful creation of an independent Croatia justifies the denial of the genocide. It is important to remember that the goal of the Axis powers was to create a stable Balkans that would not impact the push east and the war with the Soviet Union. As stated in the Gestapo memo, the very crimes of the Ustasha were creating and entrenching the partisan resistance. It should also be remembered that the reason the Nazis abandoned the personal massacres committed by the Einsatzgruppen was due to the psychological toll this had on the men carrying them out. The fact that this was not a problem for the Ustasha speaks to the deranged and twisted mentality of those involved. Following the Second World War, a new Yugoslavia was formed, headed by the leader of the partisans, Tito. Throughout his rule, the various ethnic and religious groups lived in a relative peace, albeit under an oppressive communist regime, though one not under the thumb of the Soviet Union that managed to remain neutral during the Cold War. Following the death of Tito, the region would once again be plunged into further genocides and armed conflicts during the Bosnian War, the horrors of which will be covered in another video. The crimes of the Ustasha highlight the dangers of those who push for a pure state, whether along religious, racial, or nationalist lines. Racial and religious oppression were the tools to create their desired state was brutal violence. It is important to note that the Ustasha never had the widespread support of the Croat people. The power of the Ustasha came from their Nazi patrons, who through the use of such puppet states were able to subjugate much of Europe. Hundreds of thousands of Serbs, Jews, and Roma were massacred in a bid to create a pure Croatia and to appease their Axis backers. It is generally accepted that around 300,000 people were murdered.
See, their Axis backers, which I don't think he focuses on enough, was the Vatican. That's why they were doing all those forced Catholic conversions, trying to convert at least 30% of them. That was the goal. One thing I wanted to look up, though, was I might have to use the AI to do this. Let's see here. Because I thought there was something about... Is there much persecution going on against the Orthodox Church in Ukraine? Because I thought they were doing sort of the same thing in Ukraine.
Certainly. The Ukrainian Orthodox Church has faced significant challenges and persecution in recent times. Here are some notable points. United Nations report February-April 2023. The United Nations Human Rights Office for the High Commissioner reported that violence against members and supporters of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, UOC, increased during this period. Several regional councils banned UOC activities, and the government conducted searches of places of worship and other UOC facilities. Notices of suspicions were issued against clergymen, and some were placed under house arrest. The Kiev Petrarsk Lavra, also known as the Kiev Monastery of the Caves, faced eviction by the Ministry of Culture. Concerns raised by UN Assistant Secretary-General for Human Rights. Ilse Brands-Keris, the UN Assistant Secretary-General for Human Rights, expressed concern about restrictions to freedom of religion in Ukraine. She highlighted worrying developments, including Ukrainian Security Service searches of Ukrainian Orthodox Church premises. Criminal charges were brought against several clergy members. Draft laws and concerns. The UN Rights Office questioned 2 draft laws in the Ukrainian parliament that could undermine the right to freedom of religion or belief. These laws potentially conflict with Article 18 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and Article 25 of the Ukrainian Constitution. Russian-occupied regions. In occupied regions of Ukraine, 43 cases of targeted persecution of clergy and over 109 acts pressuring churches and religious figures, including Orthodox Christians, have been documented since Russia's full-scale invasion. Russian Federation's position. The Russian Federation claims that Ukraine's authorities have consistently pursued a state policy of destroying canonical orthodoxy. This includes legal prohibitions, systematic searches, seizures of churches, and arrests of parishioners and clergy. In summary, the situation involves complex dynamics, with concerns raised by international bodies and faith leaders regarding the treatment of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. The matter remains sensitive and continues to evolve.
So, see, I was just thinking in my mind, wait a minute, there's a lot of Orthodox near Russia, and those people are in Ukraine. And I know, America's ran by the Catholic Church, which is very Nazi-ish, right? Since they helped Hitler and helped the Ustasha. And now it just dawned on me, wait a minute, what if some of the stuff we're doing is actually similar to the Ustasha? That's why I asked that question, right? Because it's like, what if they just decide they want to start going after the Ukraine? What if there's something like that going on in Ukraine, and that's an added reason that we're not talking about right now? Now, you never hear about in the news. Just a question I got, like, is it really just about Russia, or is it also about like destroying the Orthodox Church, right? Not to say the Orthodox Church is 100% right, and I know a lot of people think they're sort of Catholic-y, and but I mean, they're not. They don't seem to have the history of issues of causing the issues the Vatican has caused, right? Because I don't remember like going, wow, look at those Orthodox people throwing people into concentration camps and things, and just destroying people and starting wars. But we do see a lot of that with the Vatican. Like, who blew Abraham Lincoln's brains out? It was 10 Roman Catholics. It wasn't a single Orthodox person involved in that. When we were trying to end slavery in America, who went after Elijah Lovejoy, who was one of the abolitionists, one of them who really got the movement started? Oh, it was the Catholic Church that was constantly destroying us press. So we didn't have a bunch of Orthodox doing that, right? It always seems like it's the Catholic Church. We don't have a bunch of Orthodox trying to crawl across our southern border. It's a bunch of Roman Catholics. We don't have a bunch of Orthodox telling us how to vote on American media. It's a bunch of Roman Catholics. And, this is how I'm kind of, so I kind of look at the Orthodox as like, I think what it is they're a big church. A lot of people that can see through the Catholic Church was like, oh, I like this Orthodox. They seem a little bit better. I've even, like, in some of these countries, they only have a Catholic church to go to in the area. And they're actually people that like the Orthodox Church. But because there's no other church in the area except for the Catholic Church, they'll go to the Orthodox Church. And not the Orthodox Church, they'll go to the Catholic Church. But some of them, when I'm in these various chat rooms, I'll be like, oh, well, I'm actually Orthodox, but I go to a Catholic church because there's no Orthodox church in my area. But I kind of like the Orthodox beliefs. And so maybe because the Orthodox church is so large, maybe that's why the Catholic Church likes to go after them. So I just, just a thought. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and end my show, and because I don't really have, I don't know. If I do another show tonight, what I probably will do is just do more comparisons like what I just did and play these videos and just kind of focus on, I don't think Trump's a Freemason. I always think they like to take and say, oh, this person's a Freemason, to hide the fact that they're actually in line with the Pope. I think that's what most of these other like things like Illuminati and all this, because I think the Pope actually controls it, but it's a front organization. And so now it's like, oh, it's the evil Freemasons. It's not the Catholic Church. It's the communists. It's not the Catholic Church. Even though I think the Catholic Church helps these things get established. Oh, you know what? Maybe gosh, I'll probably read this before I forget. I had an old post, and this reminds me of it. I think I'll let this be the last thing I read before I go. Because I go on Facebook sometime, but because I had to clean up a lot of things due to me running for office, I was like, okay, so there's a lot I probably need to just kind of like just tidy up. And I'm just kind of going through all my old writings, and I reposted some. Oh, maybe it's... Okay, I think it's this one. Yeah, so I wrote this before the election, and I just kind of thought it was kind of interesting looking back on it. Because it's like March 24th, 2016. So I should be asleep, but I was watching... let me blow this up a little bit more so it's a little easier to read for people. I should be asleep, but I was watching a video as I fall asleep. And it made me question supporting Donald Trump. And it makes me think that every candidate, because I was trying to be open-minded at the time, and it makes me think that every candidate on the Republican Democrat side are 100% all working together, and it's just one big show, and that there is absolutely no legitimacy to the Democrat and Republican primaries. So the video I was watching was an interview Alex Jones did with Donald Trump on InfoWars. I do not think Alex Jones is any sort of truther, and to see him promote Donald Trump or even have Donald Trump on a show did not sit well with me. But for most of the interview, I thought to myself, well, maybe this is just Alex Jones' way of looking legit, trying to have someone who is actually legit on a show. So I was like, maybe that could be going on, right? Trying to be open-minded, not, maybe, Trump might be legit, right? As some people know from videos I made, I think Alex Jones is actually working for the New World Order he claims he is trying to expose. I get to around the 24-minute mark of this 33-minute interview. Up until this point, I still feel good about supporting Trump. Wow, I think I was really sleepy, though, when I wrote this. And anything he has said that I disagree with, I sort of write it off as him not being knowledgeable about certain things. I was very sleep deprived by 2016 because I had two very young children. I was working about sometimes 60, 70 hours a week. My wife was attempting to work at the same time. So sometimes I would sleep 0 hours some nights, 2 hours another night. Because I'm working about 14 to 16 hours a day, coming home and trying to watch a kid, right? So you got to kind of, be a little charitable with me, right? Because it's like I'm a very sleep deprived guy that's getting to do no research. All I'm doing is getting to watch a few, maybe 20 minutes of mainstream news while I'm at work. Right, 20 to 30 minutes of mainstream news. That's all I'm getting as far as my research goes. I don't get to think much. At this time, I'm not doing very many YouTube videos. Anyway, so I say get to about the 24-minute mark of this 33-minute interview. Up until this point, I still feel good about supporting Donald Trump, and anything he said that I disagree with, I sort of write it off as him not being knowledgeable about certain things. But still, for the most part, a genuine guy wanting to do something decent for this country. Just like I wrote off his use of torture as being the result of actually caring about the vets he visits with weekly, because perhaps he gets angry seeing soldiers maimed and he wants to do the same back. Also, I think some of the reason why I'm writing like this is I was thinking about running for office, and I didn't want to also be too openly against Donald Trump. So that, I think that's another thing I'm trying to be, is like put this in such a way where at the time I was, up until from 2016 to 2018, I was always careful about how I wrote about Donald Trump, seeing how everyone thought of him, right? And just in the slightest chance that I might be wrong, and maybe he really is legit, right? So that might be going on here also while I'm writing this. So anyway, so I would write various things I didn't like about Trump with that sort of reasoning. Then came in the question which exposed Trump. Alex Jones asked, who is a recent president you admire most? And Trump says Reagan, and then spoke of Reagan in great terms. Problem I have is Trump is supposed to be the most anti-illegal immigration candidate. Trump is supposed to be about restoring America to greatness. Well, Reagan was probably the greatest betrayer of the Republican Party and also America ever. Reagan, before becoming a Republican in name only because he kept every single Democrat ideal, was a Democrat. It's well known Catholics are told by their church to vote Democrat because the Democrat Party best embraces Catholic ideologies such as socialism. Catholic social teaching and socialism is all the same. Most illegals come from Mexico and other Catholic countries. It is known that passing amnesty would give California to the Democrats. And so when Reagan passed amnesty, California became Democrat. How can someone say that they are against amnesty, yet they think Reagan is the president they admire the most? Right? Good. Oops. Oh, man. I don't know why that happened. Sorry. So anyway, it says, how can someone say they're against amnesty yet think Reagan is the president they admire most? If anything, Democrats should perhaps say they admire Reagan the most because he infiltrated the Republican Party and passed all the horrible legislation they could never have passed if a Democrat tried to pass the same thing. Any Republican saying they admire Reagan is a tip-off that they are a snake. And Trump even said he knew of Reagan being a Democrat before he became a Republican. And guess who else was a Democrat before they became a Republican? Donald Trump, right? Reagan was the ultimate snake, the ultimate double-crosser. And you admire him the most, right? Right, Donald Trump, you admire him the most? Trump speaks about China, about how we need to make America better than China. He talks about how we have soldiers dying in Afghanistan while China is on the other side of Afghanistan, mining trillions in minerals and getting rich, while we are dying and spending money getting nothing. Well, the Vatican and China are allies. This is why Protestant churches have to go underground in China, while Catholic churches are free to be out in the public. Think about this. Reagan had an alliance with the Pope. He removed laws so a Vatican embassy could be created because these laws were put in place after Lincoln's assassination because it was well known the Vatican was behind Lincoln's death. Iran-Contra had to do with the Vatican wanting Reagan to help supply the Catholic-run Contras with what they needed to suppress the uprising of Christians who no longer wanted Catholic rule over their country. So Reagan helped make sure the Christian Sandinistas were killed and that a Catholic dictator was installed. You will notice that in the following years, you will hear about China starting to obtain classified and top secret documents and data that belong to the USA. You will notice China getting more advanced in technology and also richer. Oh, the Catholic Church hates communism, right? They say one thing publicly, all while working deals privately, working with China in exchange for loyalty. So we have these presidents with cabinets that are mainly Roman Catholic. We have a CIA and an FBI that are ran primarily by Catholics. We have a Supreme Court ran by Catholics. So if someone brings a case, they can rule it to suit the interests of the Vatican best. Reagan set the infrastructure up, and they all bash Bush, Clinton, and all Bush, Clinton, and Obama did was just keep it going. I know the elections we see today are at least some. I know the elections we see today are at least the same types that have been going on since the 1960s, if not even earlier than that century. If people truly understood the real relationship between China and the Vatican, they would understand China's army is basically the Vatican's army. That was the exchange for Vatican helping China to obtain the info it has from top secret USA documents, and the Vatican helping China increase its wealth and strength. So I go on to say JFK, John Kennedy, actually did a lot to get America to this point. I think he only grew a conscience because of Marilyn Monroe dying, and then he lost his child that same year he was killed. I think losing his child made him rethink the evil he was part of. But before he could undo any of it, he got shot. But he was truly evil up until that point. He had done things like promise the Cuban freedom fighters air support, only to lie and let them die, which led Cuba getting taken over. It was a decision the Vatican wanted because one more enemy surrounding America is what the Vatican wanted. James Aiken Wiley wrote a book in the 1800s in which he said the Vatican controlled groups like the communists. James Aiken Wiley wrote a book in the late 1800s in which he said the Vatican controlled groups like the Vatican. I think I miswrote this part. I should have said it uses Vatican-controlled groups like the communists for its gain. And that book's called The Papal Hierarchy by James Aiken Wiley. So we get JFK withdrawing support, which led to Cuba being taken over by the communists and thereby putting another enemy close by. And the Vatican runs AIPAC, AIPAC. The Vatican plays a big hand in getting Jews it wants to see elected, get elected in Israel and America, all to use Israel as a reason that Muslims hate America, and we have to support Israel. And it's just another excuse to get involved in the Middle East, because if you look on their map, it's the last place where there is little Catholic control is in the Middle East. Because if you look on the Jesuit map, they got all these areas, that sectioned off the Jesuits say they control or something. I can't remember what the map actually says, but you can see like the whole Middle East, and that part's grayed out. So my thinking when I was writing this at the time is that it seems like we're suspiciously in all these wars, and I was wondering if it's because that's the area that, according to the Jesuit website, that they don't control. But anyway, back to this. Democrats control both sides. Democrats complain that things get worse when a Republican gets in office, but that Republican is a Democrat. And it seems like Republicans then go to sleep and let them do and pass anything. It's like letting a Democrat in office and you just go to sleep. So that's what I was saying. Like all these guys, it seems like America, once we have a guy like Bush in office, we go, oh, Republican's a president, and they just kind of go to sleep. Trump's in office and they kind of just go to sleep and they don't pay attention to what they're doing, right? Because when a Democrat gets in office, everyone's like staring at him like, what are they doing? What are they signing? But as soon as a Republican gets in office, they don't do that as much. It's like they're not paying attention. That's kind of what I mean by going to sleep. What was the difference between the Supreme Court judges Bush nominated and the ones Obama nominated? Judge Roberts, who Bush appointed, had a very liberal lower circuit court record. He had a pro-abortion history and even won the largest case for gay rights as a lawyer. Yet Bush appoints him, and hardly a peep from the Republicans, and a little bit of stage crying by the Democrats. I said this when Roberts was appointed, and look, I'm right today. Roberts ruled for Obamacare and is always favoring a corrupt interpretation of the Constitution. I would feel better if Bernie Sanders got elected. I know he's just as bad as Hillary, though he has fooled people. But at least more people would be on guard with him in office, because he is a Democrat and is constantly being criticized. I think I meant to say, and constantly been criticized, been criticized by every. And I wrote this kind of bad because he is a Democrat and is constantly being criticized for everything he does. The safest thing for this nation would probably be Hillary being president. So I said this in 2016 in March. I said the safest thing for this nation would probably be Hillary being president and having a Republican Congress and House. That way nothing gets done for 4 years, or at least the Republican would feel pressure to try to look Republican and not vote for anything Hillary wants. And hopefully people wake up a little more in 4 years. So in 2016, that's how I kind of saw Trump, right? I said it would probably be better if Hillary was president, because I don't think we would have went along with that COVID lockdown. You see, when Trump did it, everyone was like, oh, Trump's doing it. It's great. It's great. Yeah, go Trump. You're locking us down. You're making a vaccine. And it's like, and I'm like, whoa, guys, if Hillary was doing this, you wouldn't want this, and you wouldn't be so relaxed about it. No, Chris, shut up. He's playing 4D chess. I know what you don't know what you're talking about. We're going to block you. You know, you're out of our Trump group. Right. You know, and I'm dealing with all these like crazy people. You know, I'd go try to start a rally, and people didn't want to really go along with it. Sometimes I had to do a one-man rally where I'm just walking around with a sign by myself, you know, talking to people about things. And I made a couple of videos, you know, where I was walking around in 2020, you know, and talking to people. But that's the thing. Had Hillary been president, we would have had a mostly Republican majority in the House and Senate. Well, you know, she's not going to be passing anything. And then when this COVID thing looks so suspicious, I don't think people just go along with it and go, oh, Hillary's playing 4D chess. No. You're going to be like, no, this is bad. So she couldn't have done it. She couldn't have done this stuff. And that's what I keep meaning when I said, no, Hillary couldn't have locked us down. People go, yeah, she could have. No, she couldn't. You're stupid. They would have been looking at her too hard, you know, because you had a Republican Congress and a Republican Congress and Senate. So you would have been complaining, or else maybe you would have woke up if you see all your Republicans voting for something Hillary wants to do that looks really bad and suspicious, right? That should have woke you up. But see, no one's woken up because now everyone's like, oh, yeah, you know, Mike Braun, Senator Braun, you know, he backed Trump and he's even got the vaccine. But because he says he's for Trump, he's a good guy and we want to reelect him again, even though he was for the vaccine and he supported Supreme Court judges and all these other nominations that went along with the whole plan, right? Oh, well, you know, when Trump nominated that CDC director that's Roman Catholic who was all for this whole coronavirus thing, right? Robert Redfield, right? Oh, that's just fine. It's just great. Trump nominated him. He's a Roman Catholic, even though he had a bad record about military medical misconduct while he was in the military and all this other stuff. Hey, why? Maybe we shouldn't get him. Oh, no, everyone wants him because Trump picked him. See? And it's like, and now these same Republicans that go along with Trump, see, if they would have went along with Hillary doing all this, you'd be like, let's get him out of office. But since it's like, oh, no, I back Trump. Yeah, they backed Trump. They backed this coronavirus too, and all of his bad picks. Every single bad pick. You know, the guy that helped, supported those FBI agents that put bullets in Randy Weaver's wife's head while she's holding a baby, and Randy Weaver didn't do anything wrong. And you got William Barr supporting that, saying, yeah, agents need the comfort of knowing that they can just take orders blindly and they're not going to get in trouble. And now, and he helps, and he wanted to help establish that principle, right? Where it's like, no, you just do your order. I know if there's a kid walking down the street and you get your superior tells you to shoot that kid dead, you're fine. You know, and that's the kind of stuff Catholic William Barr supports, right? But maybe had Hillary tried to nominate him, you'd be like, "Wow, that's a bad pick." So that's what I meant by that last line I wrote 4 years ago, and we wouldn't have got locked down. So just thought that was something interesting, and as I was like reading through everything on my website. So anyway, I'm gonna call that a show. See, make sure no one try to join. Oh, good. I mean, I'm glad to see some people awake. Yes, Trump only cares about himself. And Scattered Sheep, I'm sorry when you came on my channel earlier. It's like I had to be careful. Hey, Adrian Mason. I'm going to kind of just read through the stuff real quick. Trump laid claim to the to the vaccine, but he had nothing to do with it. He even tried to let the virus wash through the country. No. That's totally wrong. He had plenty to do with it. I can prove it to you right here. Twitter, Ivanka. Let's see here, Ivanka. Yeah, we'll find it. Right here we go. No, where is that? See, right here is... Yeah, right here we go. Look at this. See, she wrote this on November 16th of 2020, right? So you can't say Trump played Clinton vaccine, but he had nothing to do with it. Right here's his own daughter. Fact check. This Moderna NIH vaccine is literally the one that President real Donald Trump partnered with Moderna to create on January 13th, 2020. I repeat, January 13th, 2020. And in past shows, I've showed the Moderna timeline and everything. I've showed Donald Trump in late January, I believe he has a press conference where he mentions working on a vaccine, right? He's been working on that vaccine, like in January 2020. Dude, he was the only one to have credit for. Oh my gosh, dude. Like, are you kidding me? You gotta be kidding me, man. Dude, this isn't like, do I even have, maybe I got this old video. Thought I had let me see something real quick. I might have this little clip just to show you something. I think it's this one. No, maybe it is. No, darn it. I thought I had it down here. Oh man, I just ran across this video the other day. I'm gonna show you something though, because we're not gonna let Trump off the hook. It might be this one. I'm not going to search too much for it. If this isn't the clip. All right. Hey, people. Today is January 21st, 2024. I'm Chris Lucas. I think it might have been towards the end that I finally find. Oh, yeah. I finally find it towards the end. I don't know what video it's on. Oh, yeah. This video called Get Ready. Many of you refuse to wake up.
Risk to New Yorkers for coronavirus is.
Now you can see the. Yeah, I'll try one more time. I know one of these videos I have up here somewhere. Not where the Democrats saying, "Oh no, the Democrats were pressuring them."
The risk to New York.
Okay, now I think. Let me hold on. I gotta switch screens real quick for something. Now, if you look real closely, April 1st, 2020. That means all these clips came out before April 21st. So there are all these clips from the beginning of February all the way till about March 7th, right? So, and some of these are right up until March 7th, right? So you can't say, oh, well, Trump didn't have nothing to do with the vax. Well, definitely the Democrats
Curse for coronavirus is low, and our city prepared.
Let me give you, in case people haven't seen this yet. This, look up there, February 2nd. So Donald Trump's already making a vaccine. So Donald Trump is already starting a vaccine on January 13th. And here's February 2nd. And what's happening? These are Democrats from the months of February to March, all the way up to like maybe a couple of days before Trump locked us down. Listen to what these Democrats are saying. Does this sound like the Democrats are pressuring Donald Trump to make the vaccine? And that's all I want you to listen to as you hear this.
Well, yeah, the risk to New Yorkers for coronavirus is low, and our city preparedness is high.
This should not stop you from going about your life, should not stop you from going to Chinatown and going out to eat. I'm going to do that today myself.
Come to Chinatown. Here we are. We're, again, careful, safe, and come join us.
There is no concern at this time for coronavirus in our region.
The Department of Sanitation is ready for Mardi Gras 2020.
The facts are reassuring.
We want New Yorkers to go about their daily lives.
There's really no need to panic and to avoid activities that we always do as New Yorkers. We are a hardy people.
Americans do not need to panic. What I would suggest, however, is that Americans take this as a wake-up call for seasonal flu. There's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu.
So we're telling New Yorkers, go about your lives, take the subway, go out, enjoy life, and certainly not to miss the parade next Sunday. I'm going to be there.
If you had to, would you close down the borders? No. We need to be honest about the American people, with the American people, about the fact that we can't keep people coming here from China.
And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception that coronavirus hangs in the air waiting to catch you. No, it takes direct person-to-person contact.
We also know that if it were likely to be transmitted casually, we would be seeing a lot more cases.
Right, because this is New York and you're in elevators and trains.
Well, oh, who's still going to debunk my claims, man? What are you talking about? There you go. But look, I want you to see one more thing, man. You can say whatever you want, but guess who signed this one? Executive order on modernizing the influenza vaccines in the United States of America to promote national health and security and public health, right? Guess who did this one? Well, right up here, it's Trump White House Archives.gov. Donald Trump did this on September 19th of 2019. Dude, he saves us, man. He's the one saving us with this vaccine. So that's all I can say. And you can say he's not a president or scientist or whatever. No, he gets, and right here you said, he claimed to have some credit. No, he needs to get all the credit, every bit of the credit. Because he signed the executive order that you wouldn't have it if he didn't sign this in September 19th.
Just like he wants to get all the credit for everything that happens, good, you know, that he thinks is good. He wants credit, and that's who he is. So it doesn't matter if he did or didn't have anything to do with it. He's going to try to take credit for everything because that's who he is.
But he did sign this order. That wasn't that
right. But he didn't.
No one else signed it.
He didn't create it.
But he does sign the stuff. See, what I'm saying is he's part of a plan to always push this on us, because I played clips when he's talking in the Republican primary in 2015, and he's sitting there with Ben Carson, who he's running against, and he goes, "I like to have smaller doses over a longer period of time." Wait a minute, boosters. That's smaller doses over a longer period of time. We keep having to get more boosters over a long period of time instead of one shot. Now it's boosters all the time. So it's like he did everything he even foreshadowed in the primary. And then he meets with Bill Gates in 2017 as soon as he's elected. And he starts talking to him about having a universal flu vaccine. And then So, and then during the same, so I've never heard a president talk about vaccines in a primary before. And he's the first one to say smaller doses over a longer period of time, meets with Bill Gates in 2017, talks about a universal flu vaccine. Then everyone, because I had like a lot of some people that wanted to, they're against forced vaccinations. And that's why they told me, they said, Chris, go vote for Donald Trump because I think he's against vaccines. And then I was like, it doesn't seem like it to me.
Right. That's another problem that a lot of his followers have a wrong perspective of him, is that they think he's against vaccines. Like, he doesn't actually speak against vaccines, at least not in the public, but behind closed doors, he was very reluctant to be supportive of vaccines because he was trying to find other solutions because he knew his crowd would boo him if he brought this up.
Well, it's because I think what they wanted to do, I think their genius plan, which really isn't genius if you understand the typical person and how they just are so emotional, but you make them think, oh, you got this guy that's actually going to fight the deep state. You put him in office, you keep telling everyone he's fighting the deep state, and that's something people want to believe. It's kind of like a girl that, you know, like her husband is doing all this stuff to her, and people are, and she's like, I don't want to leave him. I want to think he loves me. And so she's looking for all this confirmation, even though this is a guy she needs to escape from. She looks for this confirmation, you know, because she wants to believe the best, or a guy with, you know, that's got like a cheating wife and he keeps like, hey, what's this? And then she gives him excuse. And as long as she gives him any kind of excuse, no matter what the evidence looks like in his house, it's like, okay, she's not cheating on me.
Yeah.
You know, gave me that excuse, said the thing. And I think the exact same thing with Trump is, oh, this guy's going to build a wall. He's going to end immigration. He's working behind the scenes and playing 4D chess. Oh, the vaccine, another 4D chess move, guys, locking you down, another 4D chess move. This is how he's going to end the drug smuggling. This is how he's going to go after the child, pedophile rings, because now these guys can't move around as well. He's playing 4D chess, guys. You just keep cheering for the lockdown. And
okay,
because
so
I mean, I had people telling me the lockdown's good because he's gonna get rid of child pedophilia.
No, I want to focus on the lockdown specifically from my perspective and how it affected me.
Sure.
Because I have people very close to me in the medical field, and I've had that my entire life growing up, whether it's people who are EMTs, people who have been doctors for years, you know, in my family and close to me in my congregation. But also, I have a lung disease, and this happened to me in 2016, that I started getting sick and I had to be more conscious, more aware of my health risks and things like that. So, and also just a side note, my brother, when he knew I was getting sick, I think in December of 2019, he called me up one day and he said, hey, are you sure what you have isn't a coronavirus? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's a respiratory disease. And, you know, we have a loose connection to China at the time. And he was like, because that's going around in China right now. I was like, no, it's not a coronavirus. I know what it is. I had a blood test done. It's my T cells. It's an autoimmune. But anyway, so the information existed. And here I was thinking, okay, so this respiratory disease comes in, and for about a month, things were kind of okay because as far as we knew, it was very localized and not a problem at all. There were very few people in the United States that we could even suspect had it, but it was also a pandemic because it didn't originate here. So it was spreading. And all I had to do was just like kind of keep an eye on it to see how many cases show up. But we didn't know it, like collectively, everyone who was involved in researching this at the time didn't know what it was, how it transmits, how dangerous it is. We just didn't have the information because it kind of popped up too quickly, and information was not trustworthy about it for one reason or the other, and I don't have to get into that. But then something happened, which was the cases started going up. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but it is transmitting and it is spreading, so people aren't being cautious, or at least enough, or it's not symptomatic enough for people to know that they're sick. So I could be at some point around somebody who doesn't even know they have it, and then they can give it to me, and then I'll die. Great. So I just have to, like, I can't touch anyone right now because I don't know how it transmits because that information didn't exist. Not to the general public. And I don't watch the news. So like the last person in 2020 that I like had to turn away was my sister. She wanted to hug me, and I was like, I don't think we can, like, because I don't know what's going on. And someone looked at me and said, come on, it's your sister, you can hug your sister. And I said, I have a lung disease, and she also has, you know, a medical issue, and we don't know what's happening. And they said, all right, yeah, that's fair. And then the next few days, there was this announcement of this lockdown, and I was thinking about it again without having the perspective of the news, but rather from the perspective of the medical professionals who are looking out for me, telling me this is how this is going to work if there's this virus and it's spreading, and you know the period of which we know it lasts within somebody in a symptomatic way is very similar to the flu because it is a coronavirus. It is a respiratory disease tied to that same type of strand as the flu. And even though like you can get it and then a couple days later you can transmit it, and then a total of 2 weeks later, you're no longer contagious. That means that whoever got it now, 2 weeks from now, will not be contagious. So if we just lock down, if we just stay in our homes, and he's telling me this for me to do this, just stay in your home for 3 weeks, and everybody does this, then we can open our doors and get back to everything, because we will know that the spread has just stopped, because anyone who could possibly be contagious would not have passed it. And that's very simple. But 3
No,
weeks
it's not.
went by.
No. Logistically, it's stupid and impossible. It's impossible.
It's not impossible, but it is logistically stupid.
If freight trucks stop moving, gas tankers stop moving, people stop going to work for utilities. A lot of things die. A lot of people die. Yeah,
it's terrible. But a lot of people died because that didn't happen.
Let everyone. I don't care if you're having surgery, you're in a hospital, you're dying. We're going to sacrifice because we're going to stop this virus. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's terrible. But a lot of people died because it didn't happen. A lot more people died because they refused.
Like, no one go outside your house. No one. I mean, no one. No, for no reason. You can't get groceries. No formula. Don't do anything. You're just locked in your house. Now,
which I did.
Well, hold on now. No, do you really have 3 weeks worth of food in your house to where somebody? I mean, no, locking down right this second. We locked down right this second.
No, because it wasn't a right this second.
No. See, this is a right this second, because if you're going to lock down,
it wasn't.
Now everyone go to the grocery store. Now everyone come in contact with everyone. Now everyone spread the virus because there's going to be one person in that grocery store, and everyone's flooding there to get supplies to go lock down.
Which means that anybody contagious at that point in 3 weeks would not be contagious.
But
even
the
if they
thing is,
got
a
it,
lot of people
it would
cannot live
stop.
without electricity for 3 weeks. A lot of people cannot
Right, so there
live
were
without gasoline. A
right,
lot of
there
people
were
cannot.
obvious exceptions so that certain people could get to certain jobs, but as far as people mingling and coming into contact with each other, that was the point of the lockdown. Like, I had nowhere that I needed to be. And it's very unfortunate and it's very bad to do this to our economy, but the alternative is to give someone a virus. And that's worse.
No, that's live, man. This is just live.
But it's it's okay. So it's the difference of saying, like, I don't have to drive on the sidewalk, but I can get around these cars. Well, yeah, you can also run a lot of people over. And then you could just say, well, that's life. I needed to get through this traffic. Like, well, no, obviously not, because that's way too obvious of a bad example to say that, well, yeah, I would not allow you to drive through a sidewalk of people, right? But what's the difference of saying, like, well, I need to go to my job and that may kill someone or it may kill me, but that's life.
Well, here's the problem. If you're real healthy, you're probably not gonna get hurt by this. It's not. We should not have to lock. I'm sorry, man, but if people got bad health, we cannot just lock down every time a cold comes. Dude, it's gonna drive up the economy so much because we don't have magical money. We don't have I mean,
I know
it's too bad.
it's bad, but if it was 3 weeks of cooperation,
We need to do that whenever someone has
it would
a
have just
sniffle.
been
Every
3
single
weeks. But
sniffle someone
instead,
has, lockdown.
but
Another
instead
cold
it
virus
turned into
lockdown.
2 years. It was 2 years of people fighting it.
No.
And spreading the disease, which is worse because there were people protesting, people, like there's clips of Republicans.
Hold on, dude.
On the news.
Hold on. No one gave a care about me. No one. No, you didn't even care. I can tell. I can tell immediately you don't even care. And this is what's getting me really worked up. Do you ever sit there and go, man, I feel so sorry for those guys. They need to give everyone who worked the whole time an extra $50,000 for risking their life because you think it's so dangerous, don't you? Now, I want to see one tweet or one message that you wrote on Facebook where you're saying, gosh, why don't they give those guys that had to work during this, that saved my life? I want you right now, produce that tweet for me. Produce this message you wrote on Facebook. Produce something saying, I wrote something that said these guys need to be paid for risking their life. Because I want to see that you're actually sincere. Just show me it right now. Right now. No, right now. Because you don't really care. Because what about my life? Because I was out there working the whole time because I'm one of those essential people that if I don't go to work, it shuts down. Everything shuts down. In fact, if 20 people at my job decide not to come in, everyone would be rioting in 5 different states all at once. Okay? They'd be rioting. There'd be massive riots. And if one of us gets sick and we had these crappy facilities where it's a portalet, that don't get cleaned all the time, and we're all going in and out of it. And so if this is so dangerous, what if one of us got a virus because we're going to these public places where there's all these other people coming in because they all got to go get supplies from the places because they're getting locked down, and one of us gets sick, and then I go to the portalet or someone else goes to that same portalet, and now not only 20 of us, but I'm like, I came in contact with Joe. Hey, since I came in contact with Joe, we got that rule that if you come in contact with someone that got the virus, you got to stay home for 2 weeks. Now all 40 of us stay home. We're burning 4 states down at least, buddy. 4 states. You guys did not think about this stuff at all.
Okay, so a closed system can survive if no one in that closed system comes in contact with somebody outside of that system.
There was no doing that with us, man, because it's like they kept the grocery stores open. They kept all these other places where we had massive traffic of people, and we had to go and interact with those same customers, right?
Yeah, our country was not prepared for this this type of lockdown, and
Right,
that's why
and
it didn't work. We just
but
weren't
all I know is
capable of doing it.
you people that wanted to lock down didn't care about us either, because I never saw anyone tweet. I just saw them getting mad. And so, yeah, I'm going to go protest because you guys don't think it's a big deal, because where am I getting a check for risking my life while you guys
No,
are
I know
staying
it's a
home
big
safe?
deal.
Huh?
I'm just saying that it's a problem either way. Because what exactly is the loving thing to do here? Is it to not care about the sick or not care about the healthy?
Well,
Like,
even if you want
or is it to care about everybody?
If you want to care about everyone, why don't you say the people putting themselves most at risk is the people that has to still come in contact with all of the world, right?
But you didn't have to come in contact with me, is the thing. But people out there were trying to put themselves in a situation where they would be forced to come in contact with me, or force me to come in contact with them.
You know why I protested? Because someone's got a grandmother that's dying, right? They want to see their grandmother. They can't see it because COVID rules. You know, because I'm sure you saw those videos of people having to hug their dead grandmother or their dying grandmother, but it's like, oh, I only got 2 weeks to live, but I got to see you behind a plastic sheet or something, right? It's like you had all these things. Like my friend goes into a hospital and he wants to see his kid get born. Not allowed to see his kid get born. He saw his other 3 kids get born. He wasn't allowed to see his kid get born. Kid going in for surgery and can't. Oh, you know, it's like and it's like, well, my kid, I might not even see my kid after surgery. My kid might die during it. You know, all these little things. It's like, no, you gotta look down. You guys don't give these people comfort. You know, in their last days. Got to lock down. We got to be scared of the virus, right? It's like you got to end life, right? My kids, I mean, dude, no one got hurt. No, when I bring up all these antibody things, they had antibody studies in California. The virus was already all around. It's like they locked down in March 13th, right? That's when they started the lockdown. They do this antibody test. And it shows that already 100,000 people in this area in California already had coronavirus. See, before the antibody test, all they were doing was testing the people in the hospital. Well, the only people that were coming to the hospital were the super sick people that were almost ready to die. So, of course, maybe 1 out of 10 of those people die. Oh, it looks like 10% of the people are dying from this virus. It's horrible. But after they did the antibody test, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean already 100,000 people in our community already have this virus? And now when you add the death statistics to it, what does that 100,000 people on top of the death statistics do? It drops it, right? So now instead of going, 10 out of 100 out of 1,000, it's 100 out of 100,000. So those statistics went way down. So instead of saying, oh, it's like you got a 3% death rate. Oh no, it's like a point. You got a 0.03% death rate.
Well, there was a 1.8% death rate for those who got sick.
There's a what?
I think there was a 1.8% death rate for those who got sick.
Not according to the antibody test.
For those who got sick, not infected, but sick, like, so they were symptomatic.
I don't know about that. I don't even know how you even test for that. But what I'm saying is you come in contact with the virus and it's not as deadly as you think it is. Because we were locking down because we thought almost 5% of the people were dying from it. At first, we thought almost 10%. They were making it sound like 10% of the people were dying.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that nobody knew anything about it. That we didn't have information, that we should have had, because it just like came up way too quickly and no one was prepared for it. Our country wasn't prepared for it, and a lot of rash decisions were made that shouldn't have been made for people that weren't ready to make them. And it's unfortunate and it's bad. But the alternative, that what did happen was also bad, probably worse, but what could have happened could have been even worse than that. But this is the past we're talking about. It's happened, and I'm just saying it's unfortunate that any of this happened. But I was trying to relate this to my personal experience, was I was stuck at home for 2 years, not able to go anywhere, because every month that went by, all I heard was that, there were more people around me getting sick. And I was like, I want to go back to normal life. And none of these people that are getting sick ever stayed at home. There was even there was at least 4 people that I knew of that were sick and at work. And this is like, if they had the flu prior to this and they got sick, they would have stayed home. But because it was COVID, they went to work saying, well, I can't miss work. So of course I just went to work sick. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, and the only post that I ever made about this was people would rather have a virus. And I wonder, do you even take a shower? Like, you don't care about like staying healthy or clean when it comes to this one thing anymore, even though prior to this, you of course cared about being sick. You wouldn't go sneeze on people. Like that would be ridiculous. But that's part of the protest of things like this, to say, no, you can't control me. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to go cough on you if I want to, because who cares about you? But all of that aside, the way a virus works, and the reason to be cautious about a bunch of people getting it is because it mutates. Because if you let it spread, if you let it incubate in your body, it has a chance of mutating and infecting new hosts or old hosts in different ways. It could even get to the point where it could reinfect somebody who had the antibodies to the previous version, and it could be deadly at that point. Now, what we've seen the path of this virus is that it actually became less deadly, but more infectious, which is actually good in a way, because we still give it that chance of mutating and becoming deadly later on. But all we should be working to do is just don't give it to someone else. If you know you're sick, and also currently this version, if you don't have symptoms, you're not contagious, which is great. But if you do have symptoms, just don't go breathing on someone. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I personally tried to get word out about ivermectin early on. That was, banned to talk about and all this other stuff, all this weird stuff. And to me, there's plenty of things going on where we didn't need to. What about what was that place called? Sweden. They didn't lock down at all. Their death rates are not high. It was normal. Have you ever seen Sweden during COVID? It's exactly like us.
Yeah.
Okay, since this was such a good idea, like, why is like Sweden okay? Sweden during COVID.
Sweden during COVID, I heard about that. They let it wash over their country, and it
didn't
was
hurt hardly anyone. Zero difference. There's
and
no.
they came out and said that it was a terrible idea.
When? Because I'm looking at this, man. I'm not seeing anyone. Hold on. Let's see. Can we find COVID protest Sweden? Let's see if someone was protesting in Sweden.
I don't think anyone would be protesting.
No, they're protesting against COVID vaccination passes. Look at this. Sweden's no lockdown, no mask mandate policies led to lower excess death study. Oh, so you know what excess death is? That's when you have more deaths than you did the previous year before, right? Why is it that New York locked down, but their death rates, skyrocketed 300%? Michigan locked down, right? See, those states actually locked down more than Indiana. Why is Indiana like so low on the death rate? And yet we had all these people that were treating it like in my area where I was at, Greenwood, we tore the fence off the kids' playgrounds and we were like, oh, we're just going to ignore this, right? Everyone fine, no excess death rates. We had no more deaths that year in Indiana than we did the year before. No excess deaths. But we just ignored it, right, in our area. So excess death rates in Greenwood, Indiana, the exact same. But New York locks down, no one goes out. Michigan, people lock down, excess death rates go up. Why? Why are all these people in New Jersey, New York, and Michigan dying?
Okay,
Yet
do you
Sweden
want to
and
talk
Indiana,
about
our death rates are the same. Or
do you want to talk about
minimum.
correlation does not equal causation? Because that's just a fallacy that you can find some correlation between death rates and lockdowns, and then that means that they're related. Like New York was a hot plate. Okay, they're going to have more deaths because they have more people. They're going to have more deaths because they have more close
Excess
interaction
deaths, though.
with one another.
Excess deaths.
Yeah. And there were people on the street saying that they didn't want to lock down, all like shoulder to shoulder with one another. You know, there's a bunch of factors that we don't even know about by just saying excess deaths went up while there was a lockdown. Like that's not.
But if this thing really was deadly, we would see excess deaths in Sweden. Because here's a place, the whole place.
But listen to what you're saying. Excess deaths. Okay, what year to what year? When
They were
did they
comparing it
not
from the
lock
year
down?
before.
When did they have it?
The year before, when there was no COVID, then the year that there was COVID in 2020, 2019, 2020, almost no difference. So that's what they mean by no excess deaths. Because excess deaths would be like, oh, wow, we got a 5% increase. Oh, maybe we should have locked down. We wouldn't have killed 5% more of the people, right? But it says no excess death rates, or led to lower excess deaths than most of the other countries that did lock down. So why is it that all the other places that locked down,
can you show that data?
percentage-wise?
Because what I'm hearing right now is the possibility that they're saying led to no excess deaths, which could be from 2020 where people died to 2021 because people who were sick died. There were no excess deaths the next year. Unless I see that data that shows that like this is due to letting it wash over the country.
On website. I did this myself. I got this video because I did this myself. I go through the thing, the CD, because I had a very slow computer that year and painstakingly did this. All the other people did nothing. So it's kind of an irritation to me because it's like you get people paid on YouTube that actually get support. You know, and I did do a study right here. It shouldn't be too far back, but I can show the link where I do here I go. You can go watch this because it's like I go through the data, show you everything, and I'll put that link right in here. I'll put it in the backstage, and you can go. I do go through the statistics, and I show you that 2019 they were one thing, and 2020 they were totally another thing. And I even show you the articles, the New York Times articles.
You know, like most countries, all of their data is going to show year by year there's going to be more deaths than the previous year. Because that's normal. Because we're going to have more people, population goes up, there's just going to be more deaths. Even if you have a percentage average that stays the same, you have more people. So unless you're saying that a virus somehow was making people healthier, which is not what a virus does, then
what I'm saying is the excess death rate is lower. I mean, not lower, but it was like minimal, right? Like it wasn't
there you
like
go.
skyrocketing.
I mean, that's different already.
Right.
It wasn't lower, it was higher, but was it higher, expectedly?
Not significant. And like there was no significant difference, basically. Yeah, I did the studies myself, right? I got it right off the CDC because everyone else is too lazy, too stupid, and just going by the media. Because
Well,
dude,
you're
I'm
saying everyone else, but there are people like I heard plenty of studies. I saw a lot of information that was talking about this because I was trying to figure out what my health risks are because I needed to know if I could go out into the world again. And I'm not going to make any rash conclusions based on any one person's information. I tried to see what everyone was saying, which is very hard because just taking YouTube, for example, if you watch one person on YouTube and they have an opinion on something, then YouTube thinks that you care about that opinion and will like feed you a bias so that everything that you see is part of that bias that they're making you form through that. That's the algorithm. So you have to break free of that. You got to look at.
Oh, I do. I have. Like, no,
you got
I'm
to,
not
whenever
like that.
you see something, you got to
critical
see
study.
who's debunking it.
Yeah, but no one did debunk it, and then the only way they would debunk I was the only one doing
there
this study.
there you go.
There
You
was
said
no one else on YouTube at the time doing the study. I was the only one who did the study because this is why I'm
But you
so
weren't.
mad and angry at all the other YouTubers because they're lazy and everyone keeps giving them money, like Tim Pool, Alex Jones, all these other lazy YouTubers, and all you had to do was go right to the CDC website and you could see that
popular
there's excess
YouTubers
death.
that YouTube believed that you wanted to see, but you didn't see all the other people that were doing the work. You even claimed that there weren't people doing that work. And that just shows me that because I did see it, you didn't see it. It's not that they weren't there. It's that you didn't know.
No, I'm aware of who you talk to. I'm aware of probably who you watch. I probably did come across their videos, like like Dr. John Campbell and all those other.
I don't know
people.
who that is.
Okay, well, there's a lot of popular YouTubers, and there's a lot of little unknown YouTubers, and I come across them all. Right? I mean, I come across all of them, and and there's a lot of Democrats because my feed is okay on Facebook because I was in the rave scene. About 90% of the people I used to know, because I used to have a bigger Facebook following before 2020 happened. And I lost a lot of my friends that I used to know, but because most of them are Democrats, right? So when they see me posting this stuff, what do you think most of the people I know that are Democrats? Oh, they're all flooding me with all this stuff. So I looked at it all. Because they hate Trump, right? And they're like, oh, but they're kind of going along with him because they love his vaccine and lockdown. But so there's a little cognitive dissonance going. But they're like, no, Chris, it's so scary. But the one Democrat that showed me that some of my information that even got me to look at that was he was like, look, Chris, so many people are getting this disease. This is horrible. I'm like, wait a minute. Did you actually read what you sent me? It shows you that. A lot of people are getting the disease, but did you read the whole thing? Because it says not all those people are dying. That means it's a lot lower death rate, which means it's safer. See, one of those articles is one that a friend of mine that sent me. He was so scared, he was about ready to cry. I'm serious. He was crying, going, Chris, I'm about ready to not be your friend. I'm not going to be your friend, man. You're not taking this seriously. And he's all crying and sending me this article. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, did you read the article? And he's like, man, I love you. And I'm like, dude, did you read this article? It's not serious. Look, they did antibody testing, which shows you that the death rate's much lower than what it really is. Like, these guys are just, like, they're losing it, man, because they just look at the media. And I'm going to tell you what, man, there's a lot of people that know. I was talking about ivermectin, and I couldn't even post about it on Facebook. I couldn't post about it anywhere. Well, here we go. I did get this one. I think this is the... Oh, yeah. Here's a doctor, Dr. Mobeen. And it's like, keep in mind, this is a doctor. So I wrote this in August of 2021. Keep in mind, this is a doctor who got the COVID vaccine, yet still takes ivermectin as a prophylaxis. And I said, I guess because he doesn't trust the vaccine to work. Rips apart this bogus CDC study. So I'm listening to a guy that actually took the vaccine, believes in the vaccine, and he is still ripping the CDC studies apart. A real doctor. This guy's got medical students. I used to listen to his show all the time. He's a really good teacher. Dr. Mobeen, Mobeen. So I do listen to plenty of this stuff. You know, I listen to doctors. And I bet most people couldn't even understand half the things he says. And I was also one of the people that talked about remdesivir and how it doesn't even work. First one to talk about it.
Okay, but you still haven't shown anybody that is on the opposite side of this yet. You've not shown that you've provided any information. Like, even if you're debunking it, where's the information for the other side?
I'm not going to go back through I'm not going to spend hours doing that and looking back at that.
I did do it.
You don't have to trust me, but I did do it. I know I did. I looked at all this information because I used to take, you got to remember, I had all this stuff posted. Don't go, you can't show me it. I can't show you it because I got banned. I had everything taken off the internet. I did. I showed it. It was
no,
on.
I'm saying right
everything.
here.
No. You can watch me talk to people who believe in it. You can watch them show me data, but then guess what? They erased my videos off the internet. They erased my Twitter. They erased everything. I did show it. I did work hard. I even missed my kids. I don't get to see my kids anymore because of you people. You people pushing this stuff. I took time away from my kids. I don't get that time back.
Hey, man. I have a child too that I cannot see.
You don't understand. I don't get the time back, dude. And I said carefully listen to you guys. I listened to all of you and I pointed out the errors, and then they erase everything.
Hey, I have a child that I cannot see because if I get sick, I die. If I get a cold, I die. I can't see my child. I haven't seen her for 4 years. That was before COVID. I couldn't see her, actually. Because if she had a cold, I couldn't go over to her house.
Have you ever heard of FLCCC? I want to know if you've done your research. You listen to other people, because I know I have. I can't help it that they ripped everything down that I ever put on the internet. But did you know? But now I want to make sure you can actually follow this criticism that you ledgered against me, because you should know who FLCCC is. If you don't,
could you explain it to me?
Oh, I see how you are. I got it. FLCC is something you should know if you actually cared and did some study, or were you playing a bunch of video games goofing around? Because that's what I found a lot of people doing, watching Twitter, sending me all this stupid stuff. I'm not Twitter, but Netflix. A lot of my friends, I'm scared of the virus. Chris, my Democrat friends. Well, here's FLCCC Alliance. So what are they? They're the Frontline COVID Care Alliance. I can't remember what all three C's mean, but Frontline COVID Care Alliance, all right? Now, if you were doing research, you would have already known this, because you'd be like, I'm so scared. Is there any treatments? Is there anything that I can really do? Well, Frontline COVID Care Alliance had a bunch of doctors, did a bunch of studies. These are all doctors. They were all having to sit there and deal with patients dying. They didn't want to see their patients die. And they also had to take care of it. So what did these doctors do to protect themselves? They would take ivermectin, and I can't remember the other drug off the top of my head, but it was mainly ivermectin, and upping their vitamin D level. Now on here, it's like COVID critical care. That's what it's called. So Frontline COVID critical care. That's the whole name of it. And so the FLCC should be familiar with anyone that's saying, "Hey, did you listen to the other side?" Well, here's a side, and I don't even totally agree with them because a lot of these people were still somewhat like pro-vaccine and everything, right? But they were like, "Hey, there's treatments we can do. We don't have to watch these people die." But yet the doctors would stop. But the government would make it harder for doctors to prescribe ivermectin to their patients and said, you're not allowed to do it. Because see, here's why the government does it. Or do you know why the government would maybe do something like that?
Because there are health risks with a medicine that, like any medicine.
No, it's one of the safest medicines there are.
Okay, well, a dog licking your face is cleaner than a human licking your face, but that doesn't mean that a dog licking your face is clean.
This has been tested on 5 billion people. So this is a very well-tested drug. We know almost every single side effect that can ever come from it. It's well-tested.
Ibuprofen's safe, but I know people that can't take it.
Right, but it's kind of weird that the government's going to say, no, we don't want no claims that this can treat COVID. You know why? Because as soon as you have one drug that can actually work against COVID, they have to cancel making the vaccine, because now that vaccine cannot have emergency use authorization, and you have to make it go through the normal testing process. So
that's a fallacious argument there, because there's no basis to say that the other side wouldn't be their solution.
There's statistics.
If this medicine
was working,
if this medicine is better than the vaccine, then they would just be exploiting it.
No, let's say the medicine's not as good as the vaccine, but it can drastically reduce the COVID deaths.
Then they would be exploiting it, because they would get money off of raising the price for this thing that they apparently caused people to fear.
No, this thing costs pennies to make. Ivermectin's so cheap.
Yeah, it costs pennies to make, and then because you're saying that, oh, you need this because it'll protect you from this scary disease, now we're going to raise the price.
No,
because
you can go get it from a farm animal. Farm animals use this stuff all the time.
But that's the con that I'm saying. That's why it's a fallacious argument, because you could easily do the same thing to the other medicine. Like, there's no reason to say that this
no, it's not to make money. It's not about making
this
is not about making money. The vaccine, it requires like they want proof that you take it. So you don't need proof that you drunk a Coke. You don't need proof that you took an aspirin. The vaccine is what you need proof of.
Right, like I need a tuberculosis vaccine to go to school when I was a kid.
Right. So that way they can control your travel and everything. See, the vaccines are more about controlling travel, where you go and everything. Because, hey, have you gotten vaccinated? Well, you can't get on the airport. You can't go travel to our country. You can't get a passport. See, they don't do that stuff if you just had to take ivermectin. This is part of the control.
But there's no reason to use this to control people to do that when you could just do that. There's no connection. It's a leap in logic to say that it's to control travel when they could just control travel.
Well, no, there's another step to it besides this, and I'm not 100% sure what that next step could possibly be, but they want this to be a downloadable thing.
Then why are you drawing the conclusion then?
No, what I'm saying is there's something to treat people. We didn't need a lockdown. This is all I'm arguing. We had something that works. They showed it, but why were before the vaccine gets made, it's supposed to take at least 5 years to make a safe vaccine. We never even brought an mRNA product to market before. So this was the first mRNA product that made it past a phase 2 clinical trial, right? First product ever. That's an mRNA product. And they never had an mRNA product hit the open market before. Really weird that during a pandemic, they just happen to create something that's good enough to make it all the way to phase 4 and to force it on the public.
Well, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
I
It's
know, but
weird.
I mean, what fortune, Trump
Okay.
happens to sign the Modernization Act in 2019, and what do you know? The COVID just comes out of nowhere in November of 2019,
Correlation does
and right
not
in the
equal
nick of time.
causation.
Trump, how did you know this, man? This guy's awesome, man. No
Well-
wonder he's gonna get reelected and people worship him.
The works for respiratory diseases have been going on for 20 years prior. Our flu vaccines are the same line of work because those are respiratory diseases. Those are coronaviruses. COVID-19 is a specific strand, but it's still part of the same science. It's still part of the same team that is studying this stuff that came out with this version of it, of the vaccine. But one thing that, like the jumping to conclusions thing, when you have missing information in the middle, have you seen South Park?
No.
Okay, well, there's a little skit in there about these things called underpants gnomes. They steal your underpants, and when the kids confront them about it, they have a chart and they say, step 1, steal underpants. Step 2, and it's just a question mark, and they don't say anything, and then they skip it and go to step 3, and they say, step 3, profit. Like, they have no idea how stealing underpants gets them profit, but they believe it. So they do it. And that's what they're doing there, is they're just pointing out this leap in logic where you have one thing and you have a conclusion, but you have no idea if they're even connected.
I don't know. I mean, all I know is right here we know it was through inflammation, because you know what, I mean, a lot of people didn't even know what I mean, do you know what a cytokine storm is, right?
Not by that name. Could you explain?
and I'm the one who did, and you're questioning me researching. See, this is insane,
It's
dude.
just
'Cause this is what
words that I haven't heard before. That's fine.
No, if
Can
you're
you
scared,
explain
you should
it?
know these words. Because
Why? Why should I know these words?
Because you're the one saying that we should lock down.
But
and
why
so
should
you're
I know
one
the
who's scared.
words?
You're the one who's scared, though.
That has nothing to do with
these
knowing the words.
Wait a minute. I did not know these words until this happened and we got locked down and people started arguing with me. And I was like, well, what the hell are people even dying from? Cytokine storms, right?
Why should I know this word? What does that have
Information,
anything
because
to
you're
do with
scared.
knowing?
You're going to look this up. You're going to study, and you're going to know this more than me because you're the one who's scared. I'm not the one who's scared.
I'm not
You're the
saying
one
I know
who's
it more
terrified.
than you.
Why don't you know any of this stuff? Why is it like
Because they're words that I haven't heard the word before. That doesn't mean I don't know the science. That doesn't mean that okay, hold on. Let me break it down like this. The importance of importance. This is something that I wrote about and spent my entire life working on. It's the importance of importance. I am one person, okay? Life is too short to learn everything on your own. You have to learn from the experiences of others. Do you agree with that?
Yes. But
Okay.
when my life is affected by something like this, I want to know why people are screwing my life up.
Okay, but think about that. I'm doing lots of things with my life. It is not important enough for me to spend my time studying every little detail because I don't have to, because I can turn to people that I trust that already do that and get the information from them. And I may not absorb it all, but if I can trust them, then I can rely on their conclusions to help me, because that means that I'm gaining their experiences for my life. Now, one of the examples that I used was an electric fence. Let's say in a hypothetical situation, no one has ever heard of an electric fence. There's only one in existence. Now, I go and I find this electric fence and I touch it and I receive a shock and I go back home and I say, hey, I want you to look out for this thin wire that hurts you. You get an electric shock. Now, the person I told that to doesn't know what an electric fence is. They know what a thin wire is, and they know what an electric shock feels like, and they know it's bad. So when they encounter it, they did not have to previously encounter it to know what it is and to stay away from it, because I already warned them about it. Now, they can either trust me and not touch it because they know they'll get an electric shock because that's the information I relayed to them, or they can try it out for themselves, touch it, receive the electric shock, and then learn that lesson and then spread that information to the next person to say, hey, yes, it's trustworthy. Don't touch the electric fence. I do the same thing with information that I do not have the expertise or the time to learn. I do the same thing with the Bible. The reason that I trust the Gospels is because I didn't have to do all the work to test the Gospels when somebody else already did it. And they trust it, and I trust them. This is how I have to run my life after knowing that life is too short to experience everything on your own. I can't only say that what I know is things that I learned myself from the ground up, because even that might be impossible, because I'm still working off of the back of thousands of years of learning from billions of people. So yeah, and another thing that I learned is there's going to be a lot of people who are in a professional position who have degrees and authority to say things, and they're going to be wrong. I accept that. People in high positions can and will be wrong. Sometimes they're being wrong intentionally. Sometimes they're lying to you. I know that, generally speaking, don't trust the government because they're liars. But that just because they're liars doesn't mean that everything they do is a lie. It just means that take it with a grain of salt. Test it. Okay.
Right.
So that's how I got to run my life, is looking at people that I do trust because they have shown themselves to be trustworthy.
But see, the thing is, right, I got a family. I don't want to be stupid and make the wrong decision. So I at least kind of read some things, and I was like, it looks like we can do something to prevent ourselves from getting sick. And I said, because I don't think kids, because daddy's got to go to work. Daddy's got to live in the real world. So I got to still go to work while everyone else, might be out to kill daddy, right? Because I told my kids, I said, this world, it doesn't give a care about daddy, obviously. They're not giving him any extra money. They just want him to go out there so they can be safe. And then they're going to take daddy's money because you guys get paid off of taxes that I pay because I was the one working. And you guys get to stay home and be safe. And I get to be your slave. And you get to be safe. And because you're more important than me. So I get to go risk my life, and to serve you and to serve you while you stay at home and jack my prices up on my groceries and everything, ruin our living, ruin me having a normal life with my kids, right? And having vacations, finally I get a job where maybe I can make some money. And now it's like, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, now we can't even go nowhere, kids. And daddy's got to miss, at least a year of taking your kids out to any place. Your kids get a year older, kids get a certain age, can't even take them to certain places. You missed out on it because everyone wanted to lock down. And, but see, here I am. I go and still look up some things, right? You got to think now, I'm working about 70 hours a week, and I got 2 kids I still got to take care of when I come home. And I have almost no free time, nothing to do any kind of pleasure when I get home, right? It's just like I go home, I read stuff like this because no one else is reading it, got nothing to listen to on the YouTube because no one else is looking it up. So I go home and read it myself, right? And so there's other people though getting $1,000 a week to stay home, and I ask them about certain things, and it's like, I don't know. And then I'm overhearing them. Oh, I watched this Netflix movie and all this other stuff. It's almost like, but I'm scared of COVID. Like, Chris, you better put on that mask around me. And it's like, no, well, you're not my friend anymore if I got to wear a stupid mask around you. We're not friends, because I already had to go out here and deal with the public and went for 2 months without no mask because they didn't have enough masks because they need them for there's like no masks to give out. Remember, like I had friends that worked at hospitals that said, Chris, we don't have masks. Can you, because we're looking for extra cloth mask. Because there's there's not enough surgical masks because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
and
I had to get a respirator, which eventually I realized was overkill. But
yeah.
That's all I had at the time was like, because I paint, I had a respirator. But I right now I wear a mask that is made for me. It's 100% cotton on the outside and flannel on the inside. Very comfortable. I, with my lung problems, can breathe in it, but I have to wear that in crowds because I can't get sick by anything. I'll die. And everyone around me knows that. So, I mean, like, I have a friend that I still want to be their friend, but they insisted on coming and visiting me. And I just wanted to know that they were going to be safe around me because they get sick a lot. I've always known them to, like every couple of weeks, they got something that they're sick with. And I just wanted to know that they would be safe around me. And they told me that they took a medicine to stop the vaccine from entering their blood. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with this person. Like, that's not how any of that works. The vaccine enters your blood through an injection. If you're not getting the injection, then you're not getting the vaccine. A medicine's not going to prevent you from getting an injection. You prevent you from getting an injection. So I just said, I mean, this really upsets me that you would say this and then insist on coming and visiting me. Like when I'm trying to say, like, hey, talk to me online because that would be safer for us. And they're like, no, if I'm not going to come hang out at your house, then we're not hanging out. Like, what happened to this friend who respected me and now doesn't care about my health? I don't know. But that's the way some people are. Is they just make weird choices in the face of something that everyone is dealing with.
See, my main point, though, is that I'm working 70 hours a week, and there's a lot of people staying at home, and they tell me they're scared and terrified of dying, yet they're sitting there watching Netflix, and I ask them simple questions about, well, have you heard about what's an ivermectin? What's a frontline critical care? What do you mean vitamin D studies? What do you mean all this stuff, right? And it's like, dude, you guys should know what a cytokine storm and everything is. You're the one freaking scared, staying home, and you got hours to study. You're not going to your job 40 hours a week. You got 40 extra hours a week to study. Not me. I'm doing this on like a little bit, or I miss some sleep, and to do a little extra study. And this is all I'm doing when I come home, and it's like I study in maybe an hour or two a day, right? You get to read something. These guys are staying home 40 hours a week, and you don't know. I expect you guys to be, teaching me stuff. Instead, I'm the one that's going on the CDC with all my extra time and calculating the statistics. I'm the one that goes and researches. I'm the one who goes and reads New England Journal of Medicine. I'm the one who goes, no, you guys should be sitting there telling me about cytokine storms and everything, and knowing every single thing about them. You should know about what was those I used to know all the medical terms, but it's like all that medical lingo and everything, you guys should be all knowing it, not me. And I shouldn't be like, oh, what is this? No, I expect you
Well,
guys
I
to
mean,
know it. You're the scared ones staying
I
at
did
home.
used to know
40
more
hours a
medical
week.
lingo, but I got hypoxia when I had double pneumonia. So I know that there's things that my brain doesn't do that it used to do. But I did grow up around people talking about medical stuff in the medical field and, you know, all that stuff my entire life. So I have heard a lot of these things, but I just don't recall that. I probably had never heard of it. But I don't see your, you know, like your insistence on me knowing this in order to make an informed decision.
Well, what I'm saying is, when people are scared, I should not be the expert. The people scared should be the experts, and they should be telling me, well, I was reading all these studies because I was trying to figure out some way to maybe not get sick or get less sick, and I'm trying to read all the stuff I should be taking and everything. And I'm reading what hospitals do, and I found out that COVID-19 causes a cytokine storm. Let me go and get on the internet. What's a cytokine storm? Cytokine storm. Don't get on Netflix now. Don't tell me you watch like 8 hours of Netflix. You go and go, okay, I was listening to the radio or I go on the internet, I look up COVID, I see what it causes, what's it dying. Oh, if you're real overweight, that's part of part of the problem. Cytokine storm and then ACE2 receptors. Okay, so is there any kind of medicine? I would start going through all this cytokine storms. What combats a cytokine storm, right? So I'm like, because that's the number one killer. So what combats cytokine storms? I'd be getting on this, man. This is what I'd be doing for my 40 hours a week if I was totally scared. So then I'd be like, oh, okay, monocytes. I'd be starting to study monocytes, cytokine release, the synergistic effects. I'd start being, okay, got that. I'm going to start looking through all this, man. I'd be just going bam, 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 bam. Like no one would be an expert beyond me, man. If I was the one scared.
I wasn't scared of the virus. I was just relying on people that I trusted to tell me what would be my best solution. What I was studying was my own disease. I was trying to understand what my condition is better. And I'll throw an example of something that I learned just like a year ago, which was when I first got sick with pneumonia, they gave me an antibacterial. I forget the name of it, and I have to remember this if I ever fill out a form again because I'm allergic to it. I had an allergic reaction to this IV drip that they gave me. My arms started turning red and it was burning real hot. And I said, I think there's something wrong with my arm. And they looked at me and they're like, oh no. So then they gave me some Benadryl and then gave me a different antibacterial. I think it was an antibacterial. But last year I looked up this medicine to find out why I had an allergic reaction to it. And it turns out that people with autoimmune disorders are the ones having allergic reactions to this medicine. And it took a year for any doctor anywhere to discover that I had an autoimmune disorder. Even though day one, they could have said, oh, he had an allergic reaction. We should check to see if this person has an autoimmune disorder. I had to go to an expert at the NIH a year after I first got sick. They did one blood test and said, we found it.
All I know is,
Meanwhile, I was going to the Mayo Clinic. I was going to Barnes Jewish. I was going to a different ornithologist. I was going to all these people that were supposed to know what was wrong with me, and no one had any clue. Professionals, they had no idea. There was one time that somebody said, well, we think it's pulmonary lymphomatoid granulomatosis. I was like, what's that? And they said, it's extremely rare. I was like, great. But then they brought it to a board And the board said, no, that's not what it is. You can't start giving this guy chemo for that if it doesn't line up just right with that, and it doesn't line up. So he said, well, what do we do? There's no one left. They said, there's one guy left. There's one guy at the NIH who looks at things that present themselves similar to pulmonary lymphomatoid granulomatosis. That's their entire study. So that's who I went to, and they found out that I had an autoimmune disorder right then and there. You know, the professionals, the people who knew this one thing that they were looking for, that's who I had to get my information from. Because even though everyone else was a professional, this wasn't their profession. It wasn't their specialty.
See, when I was on Facebook, right, and this is in March of 2020, I post out, I'm like, okay, guys, all these people are dying, and you're saying there's no treatment. So have you guys tried Cytosorb and things like that, you know, and using that on the kidneys and things like that, and maybe you can save some of these people like this. Like, I was throwing out all these ideals, right? It's like, but see, I'm not the one that was terrified of this, you know, but everyone else was. But I didn't see nothing like this. Like what I'm saying is, I have 90% of my friends on Facebook were like Democrats, right? That were scared, or Democrats or Republicans that were scared, you know, of this and wanted to lock down and said, oh, we got to lock down. We need to do it. But yet when I go to their webpage, it's a bunch of crying and Trump this and Trump that and cry. And I watched some Netflix today. Me, I got off work today. I looked this up. If you guys are scared, you know, here's some possible treatments, dude. You know, just constantly posting this stuff. No, Chris, the media told me there's no cures. We got to lock down until there's a vaccine. That's what they would keep continuously telling me. We got to lock down until there's a vaccine.
On the basis of that is logically sound.
No, it's not, because you got to do a cost benefit analysis, and just a 2 week
I didn't say it's good.
Trillion.
And again, I also said that our country was not prepared for it, but it is logically sound.
In a magical world, yeah, maybe.
Right.
It's
but
like,
our,
I mean, to
you
me,
know,
it's not logically sound when you don't consider all the factors. You don't do a cost benefit analysis. And that's the one thing I cried about from the beginning of this, is where's the cost benefit analysis behind locking us down and spending all this money, right? I mean, we spent $10 trillion on this, you know, just in Trump's years alone, $10 trillion. We went into debt on this. I don't think this was worth $10 trillion. I don't think this was worth $10 trillion. I do not see excess deaths. It did not lower excess deaths. Did not do anything. It did not. They wanted to make sure they got it out though before 2021, because if you would have had 2 back-to-back years, you would have saw, oh well, if the vaccine would have came out at the end of 2021 instead, then we would have had 2 years of data during COVID, and that's not going to look so good. They can play with the data a little bit better when you got 2020 and then you go right into 2021 rolling out the vaccine. Then you can play with the data and make it look like it actually helped.
But those are 2 different departments.
Yeah, but what I'm basically saying is, like earlier when you said I didn't look at everything, and it's like I definitely know the other side did not bother even looking into this, because I never saw. Every time I suggested something, what is that, man? Oh, I don't know what Cytosorb is. I don't know what cytokine storm is. Like, that's how every single person that was wanting a lockdown and claiming to be terrified and scared and wanting to lock down until there's a vaccine. Why is it that all these people are so scared and they don't know of any studies, never read a New England Medical Journal article, all this stuff? See, I was actually looking all this stuff up. So now you would think that, oh yeah, Chris, I know what a cytokine storm is, but let me tell you why. I only had 2 nurses that during that whole time that were seemed scared of this But then they kind of didn't seem scared because they had to go to work and deal with it. So they got kind of numb to it after a while. And because they were always around these patients. But at first they were pushing back on me a little bit. But that's about it. And they really didn't offer much because even when I was talking to them, they didn't even know half the things I was bringing up. They were unaware of these medical articles and things like that. So they were kind of useless talking to, even though, here they are in medical professions. I was willing to debate anyone openly on my shows, and it's like, well, they said, well, I have to read those articles. I'm not even familiar with that.
I would say they were both scared and lazy mostly. Like people were definitely scared.
Yeah.
They voiced it a lot.
Yep. I think I love maskless. Yes. I think lazy, man. Like it's like you just want to be lazy and go along with it and not think. That's how I think of all my friends, man. That's why they're not my friends no more. I was like 90% of the people, I can take that hit. I don't need to know all you musicians and everyone I used to know. I don't need you guys.
I mean, it's been pretty lonely for me. I've lost most of my friends that I thought like actually cared about me, but not because I was arguing with them, but they just refused to talk to me. I didn't even do anything. I just got sick, and they refused to talk to me now. Refused to talk to me.
Hold on, are you
Mine
there?
sounds good, actually. I'm always a little worried about that because the setup that I have is complicated.
All right, I just want to make someone a moderator on my. I want to add Miss Maskless as a moderator, but don't ban people. It's just if you want to ever drop links or something. But it always feels nice and special to have a wrench. But when someone makes good points, I like them feeling a little special.
It makes me anxious. Sentinel Apologetics made me a mod on his channel, and I was like, I don't want. He's actually done it twice. The first time he did it, I said, "Can you not?" And he removed it. But the streams he's doing right now, he wanted someone who was there all the time to mod, and I was like, well, I guess that's me. I'll do it. But when it's done, when he's done with these streams that he's doing, I'm gonna ask him to remove it. I also feel like because of the way that his channel is, and there's a lot of people coming on and talking about stuff, when I say something and I have a wrench by me, I feel like they're going to look at me as if I have some authority on what I'm saying. But I could easily get things wrong. I got some things wrong talking to you that I thought was real. And then I was like, looking at it later, and I was like, oh, no, I was stupid. I said something that was dumb and wrong. But I don't want to feel like I had some authority in that wrongness, because that just makes it worse, because then I'm misleading someone else.
Yeah, I still don't want to use the wrenches on the nuts, though.
Yeah.
I let them speak, because it's kind of like some of these people, the reason why I don't like to ban anyone's speech, even if they're real hateful in the comment section, is because a lot of times it comes back to bite them. And I can always go pull these chats back up and have it bite them. Or
I take it as an opportunity to try to help them. I want to know more about them. I ask them if they're doing okay. You know, because there's something going on in their life that they came on to spout something. Like that guy who came on my channel and started talking about his own personal prophecy. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to ban him, but you know, I was going to do everything that I could to try to help him. Which is rough because he didn't want to listen.
Well, you were being literal, practical, Chris, not facetious. But hey, I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut the show out. You know, it's like, yeah, I get a little. It's like, man, when it comes to this stuff, though, man, I do get a little edgy, man, because it's like I did sit there and go carefully go through it, and then it's just like when I had most people who kept telling me they're terrified, and it's like, well, okay, why did you study today? Oh, I didn't study nothing. I just watched Netflix and played video games all day and enjoyed my vacation while I'm collecting $1,000 from Trump. It's like, you know, I just get upset when I'm working hard. I'm missing time with them. You know, I'm not seeing my kids. I'm not getting to stay home with my kids and do any extra stuff. I got to work. And then I know what's going to happen. You know, it's like the whole time, you know, that in a few years, inflation's going to happen, you know, and you also at the time, I'm thinking potentially, is someone going to try knocking on my door and force me to take this crap that I don't want? Because I've already had to spend my time out in public for 9 months while everyone else is locked down and so-called safe, collecting their checks. And it's like, and now someone's going to make me take a vaccine. So that kind of made me pissed, you know, when you start thinking, oh, now my job, you know, might force this on me. You know, so that's kind of where I get so edgy, you know. But yeah, especially this, like, I couldn't even post about, hey, the Senate committee hearing on ivermectin. You know, it's like, you even talk about it, and it's like, well, I thought people were scared. You know, why don't we share information about things that could work? Nope. You know, you get slammed off of Twitter, you get slammed off of Facebook, you get banned off of brand new tube, you get banned off of. At least for me, I was getting banned like constantly. I lost 10 YouTube channels. It's like, well, I was hoping when I bought this house, I paid an extra $400 to have, so I could use the basement as a studio, hoping to do YouTube as maybe a living, you know, doing a truther channel, you know. And it's like, oh, now I'm suddenly banned. So the extra income I thought I could maybe make, I can't make because I'm being banned so often. So I've had, you know, I've lost, ways of making a living and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, while everyone else telling me they're scared playing video games and stuff. So that's why I'm getting, you know, my edginess for this whole thing comes from. And that's why I get real frustrated if I start asking people, cytokine storms, all this other stuff. Hey, how many studies have you read on ivermectin? None. Oh, how many studies have you read on? I can't remember that one that Donald Trump kept. It sounded like he promoted, but he didn't promote. Hydroxychloroquine. How many studies have you guys read on that? None. You know. Some people didn't even know what a hydroxychloroquine was. I was like, wow. Yeah, I couldn't talk about this, you know, wonder drug. And it's like, why didn't Trump even talk about that Senate hearing? You know, that's really weird. I thought Trump cared about everybody. You know? How about him talking about that? Or at least he should have said, man, Pierre Corey is a fraud, right? This Pierre Corey guy, guess what he is? He's a Democrat. Democrat bringing this up. This is a Democrat bringing this up, a Democrat doctor. Doesn't like Trump at all. And he's the one bringing the ivermectin case up before the Senate. And no one wants to listen. And it's like, hey, Trump, you had a Democrat on your side arguing for a cure. Why not we? Oh, no, I'm not even going to mention his name in the press. So, I mean, that's why I get so upset. No, it's just one big old fraud. I guess they must have erased everything else I posted about it. So, because it only goes back to December of 2020. But oh, Dr. Paul Alexander. Yeah, I'll look at it. But I took ivermectin. I got ivermectin upstairs. I had to buy the horse version of it to get it though, and it comes in a syringe, and you can dial it, and same amount for a horse as for a human being, right? Because you can dial it, and it tells you the pounds. So exact poundage per ivermectin per pound, you dial it, and because the horse ivermectin per pound, you would give it the same exact amount. Any kind of animal, pretty much it's the same, as far as I understand. I mean, don't take medical advice from me, people, but I took it, because I was like, well, just in case. I don't know if COVID's as bad as people say it is. Some people were telling me, oh, my lungs felt like they were going to explode. Those were my vaccinated friends, though. When after they got vaccinated, they were like, oh, my lungs felt like they were going to explode. Good thing I got vaccinated, or else it would have been worse. But
that's not how symptoms work, though. The symptom is your body fighting the thing. The vaccine teaches your body to fight it, so that when you get it, your body fights it. There was a possibility that without it, their body would have fought it in a different way, but instead it reacted right away with, its immune system or its immune response. And that's why they were feeling these symptoms. That's what symptoms are. But like I said, I have an autoimmune. My body is more likely to attack me when I get something than it is to attack the disease. Which is what it's doing right now. It's attacking my lungs. My immune system is killing me.
Okay, I think I am going to end my show. I'm going to see if this guy... I'm going to let me refresh this page. Because I might go on... this guy looks like he's still alive, so I'm gonna go listen to his stuff for a while. He's a Asian Orthodox. I kind of like some of the stuff he's been doing recently, so that's what I'm gonna listen to. And he's so he's been kind of doing a lot of stuff talking about the once saved, always saved, and the free gracers. Oh yeah, dude, he exposed them pretty bad. Are you familiar with Praise I Am's channel?
I've heard that name.
Oh boy, man, that channel has been like a horrible channel. But anyway, I'll show you something real quick. This guy's channel blew up, man, in the past couple of days too, because he only had about 50 subscribers a week ago, and had maybe 20 2 weeks ago. But ever since he's been exposing this stuff, it's like so Praise I Am, it's probably hard to see this guy right here, but he runs this Praise I Am channel. And what it was this guy did this show, and especially like these videos right here, man, dude, it exposes these free gracers pretty bad, man. Because you see this guy, he's cussing out this guy, and then he starts cussing out this guy, saying, I'm more effing free grace than you are, and F you, and it's like it was just a crazy show.
All right, hello to anybody else.
I didn't mean to do that, but
I tried to I think Paul got upset at me the other day, but I was just trying to explain, because they had somebody on talking about like one thing for saved, and Paul's talking about once saved, always saved, and I was just saying, like, trying to emphasize this thing, like, they can both be right if you stop thinking that it's only one or the other, because you're pulling this verse and you're pulling this verse, but none of you are actually tackling the verse that the other person pulled up. And I was just trying to say, look, like, the act of Jesus's death, burial, resurrection saved me. I had nothing to do with that. I don't even have to believe in it. It saved me. But that has nothing to do with me being saved. Because of that saved and this saved and that saved are different words. And then he was just like, what's your problem? I'm like, my problem is I feel like every time I say this, nobody listens to it. Like, nobody even addresses it. That's my problem. Like, no, it must be only one. It's like, why? There's plenty of verses that say other things. If we look at them in context, we can see that it's talking about three different things. That's all I wanted to say. And I don't know. It just seemed to upset everyone.
Miss Maslow says the free grace movement is infiltrating, was controlled to begin with. Yeah, I never even heard of it, man, until 2 years ago, and I came across this channel by accident, and because I was wondering why someone was arguing with him, so I started looking at his channel, and I was like, and also my sister was dying, so I wanted to make sure, it's like, if I have, like, I've never heard of this, so I'm trying to be open-minded, and I was like, well, maybe this is the gospel message, and I'm not aware of it. There's a possibility. I never thought to look at it this way, so I'll look at it, and as I'm studying this stuff, I'm like, man, the behavior, everything on there, man, it's real hard. It's real tough for me to accept it just with the people that are presenting it, and
I mean, I'd love to go over that with you sometime and show you what I know. I'm not as studied on it as something else that I'm doing,
right?
Which, by the way, I had. Excuse me. Hold on.
Oh, that's fine.
I finally got someone to edit my commentary, and then they're going to be the first peer review. So then after they edit it, I'll be sending it out for peer review. So that's actually happening. It's coming closer to being released.
Do you get to read their peer review too? Like, or is that going to be posted?
Yeah,
because I'd even like to read the peer review of it. I think that would be
have it all
interesting.
together. And then the next thing I'm working on is communion and the Eucharist. But I have enough. I've talked enough about the being saved and things to be able to have a discussion on it.
Yeah, listening to this guy, now that I know like a lot of other verses, that looks like, see, I was kind of like sitting on the fence about it, and I was almost like, well, maybe that sounds valid. Maybe I was really wrong, to ever, maybe I was like not really taught right. But man, when some of the stuff this guy, I'm not pointing out, I'm like, it's real hard for me to believe in once saved, always saved now. After some of the things he pointed out, and I know he's Asian Orthodox, and that's not really like, I know some of the Orthodox teachings have its issues. I'm not, I am aware of that. But
another fallacy is to think that just because someone is making a fallacious argument that they're wrong, because they can make an argument that doesn't support their point and still be right.
Right, that's true too.
Yeah.
But anyway, I it's like I think I'm more on the side of like I don't like to call it conditional, because I feel like some people say, well, that means you have to do works also for your salvation, and because I do believe that that's 100% by Jesus. But I think like when you abide in him, I think you like that's the manifestation of you abiding in him, is that that you're doing his will, you know. And so there are going to be works that show that you abide in him. And it's like when I read those verses about, you know, the branch being cut off and everything, it's like, to me, that branch being cut off is not saved. So
we did talk about part of that at one point.
Yeah, we talked about the seed and the sower, and I think we're both on the same outlook. Because if they're okay, like if once saved, always saved is true, right? Then that parable about the seed and the sower would be someone that's like so sure about Christ that that seed's so deeply implanted in them, it ain't going nowhere. And so they're just gonna believe forever. So that means they're saved forever, right? Because that seed's just so firmly down in them. Okay, I could go with that one. You know, the person whose faith has gotten so strong and has taken such a root, they're saved forever. And then if you want to tell me that person's the person that is eternally secure, I think I'm fine with that. But like, if you want to look at eternal security in that sort of way, I could maybe say, okay, you can make an argument for that. I can't really, I'm not going to push too hard against that. But, or at least I don't know of a way to. I haven't thought about that enough yet. But when they start telling me it's everyone but the one where the bird eats the seed, gathers it quickly, and eats it before it has time to even take any kind of root or sprout at all. And they're saying that's the only one that's unsaved, and all the rest are saved, even though they're choked out and all this other language. Well, that sounds like your spirit died and everything. And I'm scared to be anyone but that last one, to be honest. And so I'm thinking, if I'm scared to be anyone but that last one, then I probably don't want to be those, and maybe those aren't a good one to be. So, yeah, you know, Sam can be funny. Sam, people are referring to this guy right here, Sam Shamoon. He brushed me the wrong way the first time I was on his channel, because he banned me, and he had something about Seventh-day Adventists, and so I was typing in some stuff I know about them and wrong about their doctrine, and he decided to ban me because I guess he doesn't like how I speak against them. I think what it was I compared how I said it's ironic how Seventh-day Adventists hate Catholics, and yet they're so much like the Catholics. And I think that's what caused him to ban me. But they really are very Catholic-y to me. So, but he's good on some things. It's like if you're dealing with nice Sam can be okay, because he can be really knowledgeable. He knows a lot more about some of the Bible than me. I would say a lot of the Bible than me. But I also just don't like his personality. Not when unless he's real nice, which is very rare.
My name is Haven. Or a development team, but I don't know if they can see that.
Yeah, I can't blow up the screen. Well, I could blow it up like that, so they could. There we go. See that, and then they can see the name. That's good. That's a good backdrop. I need to do something about my wall, man. Well, I can't even see what that is. What you're pointing to is something red, though.
Right. You said you watched the serial review videos.
Right.
This little image of this guy with this red backpack shows up occasionally.
Oh, now I see what it is. It's a person. Yeah. Okay, I couldn't see that.
He shows up in every video, but some are very hard to actually catch.
Okay, yeah, man. If I was on my big screen TV, I'm on my laptop, and I can even barely see it.
Yeah. I had a whole plan for, like I've put him in the background of short films that I've made. Not this picture, but a person that looks like this with a red backpack. although the
now we
there
could
you go.
see. I was doing that so we could see it. So
Yeah, the short film that I got nominated for some awards for only had like a little tiny bit of the backpack, and I got upset at that because more people saw that film than the film where there's this quick shot where he's just like way in the back and you see him for a moment and then it focuses on the actual main character. But it's just a little Easter egg that I throw in on films and stuff.
yeah, well, truth free is what it is it's like a person with their back turned to us,
They're
and then he's
facing
wearing a
that way.
backpack.
Yeah.
Here, I'll do.
So that you got his head right here, his arm, and the backpack's back there. So he's got a long black coat, and he's facing like that way.
Yeah, you can barely see it. Like I couldn't even notice it until he said it's a person, and then I was like, okay.
And then this background is just part of researching like a screen battery, because people were implementing dark mode on their websites and stuff, and I was like, why? It's like, well, because white light uses more pixels and thus drains your battery. The two things that use the least amount of battery are black and green. So that, I mean, I like to have a lot of black and green and stuff that I do because it doesn't hurt your screen.
Okay, I didn't know that. So I might try that. But anyway, it is late. I didn't even think this show was going to go 3.5 hours. I really planned on just having about an hour and a half show. And
yeah, I went to bed and then only slept for 3 hours, but I woke up and I was like, what's going on YouTube? And I was like, oh, you're live.
yeah, I think I'm going to go over to I'm Not What I'm Not. I'll put up this. And I don't think they'll stay on this topic just because you see that topic about Sam Shamoun teaches Talmud and Islam. Maybe it'd be interesting. I don't know. Sometimes they switch topics, and they'll still have the same topic up there, but they'll switch it. So,
right.
But I'm just letting people know. I don't even know if anyone even cares, but I like to watch a lot of live Christian programming and discussions, and he has all kinds of different people on there. Like, well, right now that he's got 3 Orthodox people on there, himself, Sam, and Marcos are all Orthodox, and then Josh is actually, I think he might. I know he definitely believes in once saved, always saved. So, and then these guys, don't, since they're Orthodox. So, and he gets like various people just on here and interacting. So, but
they probably hate me.
I'm not sure, man. It just depends. I don't know what you'd get along with, because you don't believe in once saved, always saved, right?
I
Or do
believe
you?
well, like I said, when I mentioned Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection saved me, that's eternal. But that has nothing to do with me being saved because I have to believe in him. And it has nothing to do with me having been saved, which is when I face judgment, I am saved from punishment, and that's eternal. But while I'm alive, it's not, because I can't change Jesus's act, and I'm still alive, so I haven't faced judgment yet. That's how I view that. I'm in this state of I have the choice to cast it aside if I want to.
Oh, Miss Maskless, I'm open to it. It's just like when I was growing up, I grew up in a Church of Christ, and so that's where a lot of my influence comes from. And then it's like I never heard too much about once saved, always saved, to be honest. Like growing up, like that, it's totally new to me. And I mean, I thought I was pretty open as far as talking to a bunch of people, but I guess like a lot of people keep their religion to themselves, and that somehow that I go through about 45 years of my life without even hearing that. Oh, Nanya, dude, I'm about ready to end this.
Hell yeah, I just wanted to say, hey, what's up? Because I seen you on a long time ago, and I thought it was going to be short. Oh, you
I
stepped
thought so
back.
too.
And it's like, oh my, and I come back and there, it's still on my feed. It's still on my, I go, I'm going to jump on there and tell that boy to go to bed.
I got 30 more minutes before I have to go to bed.
No,
I don't
got
go to bed
anything
till
particular.
5 a.m.
Yeah, I ain't got anything in particular. Just wanted to say, hey, greetings to you, undevelopment team.
Hello.
No, you guys carry on, brothers. I was just, I just had to laugh. It was like going on and on. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I meant to kind of get offline as soon as I did that, played that video about the Ustasha and killing all the Serbs and forcing them to become Catholic, because that was their whole goal, was to make 30% of the Serbs Roman Catholic, kill 30% of them, and then export another 30%, something like that, or 33%, something like that.
Yeah, I was just going over that with the in Spain, in like the year 1000. Oh, when was this? 1215. The Valdensians, is that the name? Is that right? Am I saying that right? The Valensians, the forced disputations between the Catholics and the Jews, and the when the Jews lost, they would be put to
Waldensians?
death.
Waldensians?
Waldens.
Because I can't think of anything called Valdensians. It's like, I know there's the Vandals.
Vandel. But it's in Spain, and with the Catholics forcing the Jews into debates, and they would be forcibly converted or put to death, depending on how they argued their side of the story.
Because this was the 11th century, like in 1059, around there.
Yeah, does that sound familiar with?
Because, yeah, I wasn't sure if this was the group you were talking about.
Well, you're not sharing your screen if you're trying.
Oh, shoot. I thought. Oh, yeah, now I know what I did. Sorry. There we go. That group?
Wow. Maybe that W is pronounced like a V, the Valdensans and their valley. Boy. But no, you think that there's been enough annihilations over different religions, recently or whatever, but yeah, and in the past. But I was shocked to hear this about the Catholics. I just ordered The Faith of Our Fathers. It's a beautiful read if you're a devout Catholic, and it's quite a bit of ammunition against them if you're anti-Catholic. It's a phenomenal book written by a cardinal.
I'll have to check that out. I think someone mentioned it before, and I never got around to reading it.
Well, I'm like, I don't know what you would call me, a law dog, a Sabbath keeper, a Saturday Sabbath keeper. So it really explains the horrors behind what many Sunday Sabbath keepers would consider innocent Sunday Sabbath keeping. It's if you understand, you're actually putting yourself under the Catholic Church's authority whenever if you're like, you think the Sabbath has been changed to Sunday, yeah, you might want to change your mind on it. But his first, he's got like an introduction, a preface, and then like chapter 1, and so, but it's really early on. I can't remember, which one of those 3, but really early on. And the guy writing the book, this Cardinal Gibbons, he's laughing at the Protestants. He's like, dude, they broke away from us. And it's like, it's hilarious that they're still worshiping on Sunday. That's our mark of authority. How much did they really break away? you know, he answers questions like, why do we, he answers like 7 questions. Why do we call ourselves father when Jesus says to call no man father? Their priests are called father. Do they worship Mary? The Sunday worship. It's all answered in his book, but it was written like 1890 or something. But yeah, I just ordered it. I was real excited for it. But we were just going. I'm gonna have to research the Valdensians. Gosh, I just can't. And that picture you gave me didn't really help. And
yeah, all I know is this is it. But yeah, I mean, this is that book, Faith of Our Fathers, with James Gibbons.
Oh, right, there it is. Yeah, you should read the first couple sentences. Oh my goodness, he's a smooth talker.
So this is the 83rd revised edition. You said you read one from.
No, it's been revised since whatever the original.
1876, I bet.
Wow.
It says,
no, they don't.
The writer has sought to be exact in all of his assertions, and occasional inaccuracy may have inadvertently crept in. Any emendations which the venerated prelates or clergy may deem to propose will gratefully be attended to in subsequent edition. So I guess it might have been first came out in 1876, and so this is the 83rd. I've never heard of an 83rd revision edition.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
That's wow. That's wild, man. He already had 47 before. Looks like 1879 or 1895. He was on his 47th. It looks like.
Yeah, had the Pope written it. The Pope's infallible. He couldn't have revised it. But but I mean, their dogma, they agree with this. This is what they would refer to if you ever went to a local priest and said, hey man, Jesus said don't call every man father, what's going on here? He would give the standard answer given in this book. Hey, Paul called Timothy son. They were referring to the Greek priests. We're not Greek priests worshiping Greek gods. We are not they'll give you answer after answer, but it's all just a smoothing over on their authority as God Almighty on earth because of Daniel, that it all came to pass. And now Jesus, so at the resurrection, there was a 1,000-year reign of Jesus, and now the church is that. We all look at that in the future, the millennial reign of Jesus. They say the Catholics say it's happened, and they are now the vicar of Christ. This is Christ vicariously. It might as well be Christ. The Pope might as well be Christ and or God Almighty. He's infallible. The Holy Mother Church is married to Jesus, and they need to spread the news worldwide. That's what Catholic means, like universal or something. But no, it's crazy. It's just crazy schmoozing of a book. I can't describe it any other way. I cried at some points on their personal beliefs. It's like, wow, you guys really believe this? Are you kidding? Or I used to believe that, as I used to be Roman Catholic, church, whatever.
I was curious if they said anything initially about like the seventh day or the Sabbath. I only found like 2 pages that mentioned the Sabbath. So it would have to be like 7th.
Yeah, I think the actual words are that people, quote to this day. I think the actual words in the book are, nowhere in Scripture will you find that the Sabbath has been changed to Sunday. They freely admit it, and it's by that ruling that they say it's our authority. We're making the rules. Peter gave the right answer that Jesus was the Messiah, and then Messiah said, upon you, Peter, upon you, the rock, Peter, we're going to build our church. And he is the first pope of the Catholic Church. Have you ever heard such nonsense?
Yeah.
It's like a kid in school given the correct answer, and then the teacher saying, "Yes, that's right. The correct answer is George Washington. You, George Washington, are going to be." It's like, what? No, he gave the correct answer. You're Messiah, and he says yes. And upon that, it's your Deuteronomy 32 rock. That's a commanded, for us Torah observant fellows. It's a commanded song we're to teach our kids. And in one of the lyrics is that you have lightly esteemed the rock of your salvation. Now, whether you think that's the Father or the Son or the both or all three, or however, either way, in the KJV, it's a capital R for our rock, and it's a small r for their rock. And he even says in Deuteronomy, once you guys get out of get into the land, overcome, grow fat, and start worshiping other gods, I'm going to disperse you, but I will bring you back if you seek me with your whole heart and mind and soul. I'm just saying the Catholics went, they didn't butt heads with that. They branched off. The Satan will not butt heads with you. He'll send a hot chick. He'll make you stub your toe. But he'll never take. He knows that he can't take you head on, and I'm just saying that's what the Catholic Church has done. They're just sneaking right around it. They're sneaking. It's replacement theology is the baseline. Sorry to ramble.
Yeah, I've talked to my brother about this too. This very same rock thing, and giving the keys to the kingdom. Because the word he says to you is not necessarily plural or singular. It's the word to you. And I was saying that before he addresses Peter directly, he's addressing all of his disciples. And then he takes time to address Peter. And then he goes back to addressing everybody, saying, I give the kingdom, I give the keys to you, whoever whatever you bind, whatever you loose. But he's just saying that, it is their duty to spread the gospel and make disciples. And if they don't do that, they're basically condemning people because they refuse to let them know. Or they can go let people know and therefore, get people baptized. But at the same time, you have polemically, Jesus is standing on Mount Hermon, which is known as the Rock. And then also on Mount Hermon is the gates of Hades, which he says will not withstand his church, that he is building on the rock. And the gates of Hades is just like thought to be where the dead go. That's like the gate to the underworld. And he's just saying, he's talking about conquering death with his church. His church will conquer death. It's not.
Oh,
Peter,
yeah,
your Pope.
amen. Yeah.
Well, people, I think I'm going to go ahead and call this a night. Thanks for watching, and
I'm going to hold you to that, and I'm going to leave. I'll see you later.
All right, yeah, good. Hold me to it.
Nice meeting you on development. Yeah, thanks for the time, Chris. Yeah, that's crazy stuff. Boy. But I was surprised to hear the news, and it was refreshing to hear the honesty on the reason behind it. Just to simplify it real quick, it's too complicated. It's without a helper. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, about me dropping out of the race.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, and then as far as like theology and stuff, yeah, we'll save that for another time. But yeah, get yourself some sleep. You probably got to get up and go to church or something today.
Well, I actually want to stop by that one channel for a little bit and go to bed, get something to drink. I'm getting parched. went like 2 hours without drinking anything. So
I couldn't believe you were on for 3 hours. I'm like, I got to get on there and tell that boy to go to bed. All right, handsome. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for showing up.